Pei Yuan showed his badge and entered the north office. Maybe knowing the new big shot arrived, many idle Jinhui officers detoured to the front yard to take a look at Shao Qi, closely following Pei Yuan, seeing them sizing him up with a smirk. Afraid his boss would do something rash, he quickly whispered to coax him, "Sir, it's fine, just ignore them. Mei Qingyang is a top beauty in the martial world. We didn't lose out." Pei Yuan's eyebrows twitched a bit. He scowled and looked back at Shao Qi. "Are you telling me what to do?" Shao Qi bowed his head and stayed silent. Pei Yuan turned around and saw an unfamiliar fat officer studying him closely. Meeting Pei Yuan's eyes, the fat officer said sarcastically, "Let's go. The boss is waiting." Pei Yuan gave a cold snort and walked right past him. As he walked, he opened his debt clearance system. Name, Pei Yuan. Job, Jinhui. Rank 6 Baihu. Financial debt. Receivable, 0/3. Payable debt, 5252. Wages, money, 30,825. Gudeong, 30,000, Zhang Yaochen 120, Tao Liban 32, Chen Lu 55. Favor debt. Receivable favor, 1/1. You fulfilled Mei Qingyang's dying wish. You can ask her for a favor. Payable favor, 0/1. You owe Warden Chong a favor. Warden Chong hopes you marry his daughter. To clear this favor. He has now given up on this idea. Host can delete or force repayment. Current debt limit, 30,000. Currently overdrawn by 825. 215 days until settlement. Overdrawn amount will be forced to settle. Current credit score, 15 out of 100. The news of you getting a Jinhui post gave your creditors some confidence. Special status. Too much debt to worry. You are now strangely calm. After reading, his eyes fell on Gudeong 30,000. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Ever since he borrowed 30,000 from Gudeong, Pei Yuan knew he had stepped onto a very hard path. Pei Yuan's family was ordinary. His dying father left gambling debts. And he got the worst exam grade. The only impressive thing was missing the target in archery and shooting down the flagpole. To describe him as poor and useless wouldn't even be an exaggeration. Luckily, eunuch Gudeong saw this, laughed out loud, and said, "Capturing the flag is also a skill." Facing this utter nonsense, the examiners looked at each other. Soon, Pei Yuan, who should have failed, after much weighing by the officials, was added as the top scorer. If anyone gossiped about Pei Yuan's skills, then Commander Baiyu, Earl Maorue, and Vice Minister Lu Wan wouldn't allow it. With the martial exam degree, Pei Yuan was qualified to inherit his father's Baihu title. And making Gudeong laugh on the field, to change the examiners' minds, was because Pei Yuan used the debt system to forcefully borrow 30,000 from Gudeong. Gudeong's silver wasn't easy to take, especially when he had to pass the rationality check, which wasn't simple at all. So, after borrowing money from Gudeong, Pei Yuan immediately bought an office from him. Gudeong was confused, but seeing the huge loan he gave out returned to his own hands, his mood became very calm. And buying an office with cash was very reasonable in the current economy. The final result was, the office was bought, and Pei Yuan gained a heavy debt. It was also at this time that Pei Yuan realized this debt clearance system actually had a damn debt limit setting. He didn't know how forced settlement would operate, but it wasn't what he wanted. He originally planned that after joining, he'd make money quickly, pay off some debts, and balance the overdrawn accounts. But Gudeong's stingy move screwed him over. Pei Yuan bought the office from Gudeong. In theory, Gudeong should have put in a good word. Even just a simple message, and no one would complain. After all, the current boss, Commander Zhang Rong, Earl of Anding, is Director Eunuch Zhang Yong's brother. The Jinhui is Zhang Yong's turf. You have to show respect. But Gudeong, that bastard, didn't want to spend money or owe a favor, so he just made Pei Yuan take the formal exam. This directly offended Commander Zhang Rong the most. To make matters worse, Gu Daiyong's adopted son, Gu Ben, was in the Jinyui, holding an empty title. Gu Ben couldn't keep a secret, and soon made Pei Yuan's huge loan known to everyone. An officer like Pei Yuan with huge debts, who clearly came to make a fortune, wouldn't be liked by his superiors or his subordinates. There's only so much meat. If you eat more, what will others eat? So shortly after entering the Jinyui, Zhang Rong politely called him in and transferred him straight to the Eastern Depot. While Pei Yuan was totally confused, he was also helpless. He originally wanted to make Zhang Yong or Zhang Rong his creditors too, but, besides Gu Daiyong who occasionally gambled, he had no other choice. Now that his debt was severely overdrawn, forcing a loan from Zhang Rong wouldn't work. Luckily, not everyone at the Eastern Depot gets cut. The nominal rulers of the Eastern Depot are a group of palace eunuchs, but the agents who actually do the work are ordinary staff from the Jinyui. The two top resident officers are the punishment Qianhu and the punishment Baihu. Other than that, those dispatched by the eunuchs are low-ranking officers like Xiaoqi. The managing eunuchs of the Eastern Depot, seeing the Jinyui send an extra Baihu, were all very happy. Qiuju, the eunuch directing the depot, even asked about it personally. When Qiuju heard that this new Baihu was actually the top scorer, he was absolutely amazed. While mocking Jinyui's jealousy of talent, he decisively took this ultimate weapon and sent him on the hardest mission. That was to join the siege on the Plum Blossom Society. A group of fierce eunuchs led the top-scoring Jinyui Baihu south. Not long after, there was one good news and one bad news that came back. The good news is that the Plum Blossom Society was heavily attacked and suffered a huge blow. The bad news is, a swordswoman named Mei Qinyang, during the breakout, captured Genie Guard Commander Pei Yuan alive. Later, when she saw no way to escape, Mei Qinyang declared she wouldn't come to this world for nothing. She dragged Commander Pei into the grass and slept with him. Then Mei Qinyang was killed by a volley of arrows. But Commander Pei was rescued by chance. After the story got back to Beijing, Chief Eunuch Qiuju of the Eastern Depot was so shocked, he fainted in public. When he woke up, his first words came out hoarse. Why didn't he just die? Almost everyone in the Eastern Depot is an eunuch, so they're sensitive about things like this. Such a scandal is just making everyone laugh. And as if that wasn't enough, what happened next was a real slap in the face for Eunuch Qiu, who wanted to keep it quiet. Right before the Eastern Depot moved on the Plum Blossom Society, someone quickly spread all the details. For a while, everyone was talking about it, even more than the ongoing Bazhou rebellion nearby. That event felt small in comparison. The insiders knew not everyone in the Eastern Depot was an eunuch. But outsiders all believed everyone there was an eunuch. So from their point of view, a female swordswoman sleeping with an eunuch became the hottest rumor in the martial world. People even passionately debated the possible positions and feasibility. But to those who really knew the business, this sparked another topic. Rumor had it, at first, it was a beauty and a chief eunuch of the depot. Later, the clueless ones just called it an Eastern Depot eunuch. But in the Eastern Depot, not just anyone can be called an eunuch. Only those with status. Like Qiuju, one of the 8 tigers, same rank as Lu Jin. So in the end, the same story. Insiders and outsiders passed around 2 different versions, enjoying their own kind of gossip. Even though such rumors can't hurt those damn Dongchang traitors, it didn't stop them from enjoying it. Qiuju entered the palace at 5, keeping his purity all his life. He never dreamed that, at over 50, as the Dongchang director, he'd take the blame for such a thing. This matter even made Zhang Yong badmouth him to the emperor. If Gu Daiyong hadn't covered for him, Qiuju would have lost his face to be the director. So, the night Pei Yuan returned, Dongchang agents rode out in all directions. The fierce Dongchang guards terrified all the officials in the capital. Facing the furious eunuch Qiu, Pei Yuan didn't panic. He calmly asked the question he'd pondered. My death is no pity. But if I die, who will bear this ridiculous fame? It was obvious. For Qiuju, the Dongchang director, taking Jianghu rumors seriously was beneath him. It might even play right into some people's hands. The bigger the fuss, the worse it gets. If both parties involved died, the story would have no end, making it even harder to explain. Eunuch Chiu swayed a bit, turned away in tears, and left. If you can't beat them, hide from them. Not long after, Centurion Pei was sent back to the Jinui. The only condition for his safe retreat was to occasionally visit the biggest tea house and tell people about his untold stories with that female Jianghu thief. The commoners listened for fun, but inevitably, it drew the contempt of his Jinui peers. Today, Pei Yuan came to see Zhang Rong because Commander Han from the South Sanfusi arrived to investigate his case. The South Sanfusi is the disciplinary branch. It's said that many offending guards died silently in their secret prisons. Pei Yuan looked calm on the outside, but to say he wasn't afraid would be a total lie. Entering the hall, Pei Yuan quickly glanced around, only seeing Zhang Rong sitting at the head seat. He didn't see the South Sanfusi commander. Feeling slightly relieved, he hurried to greet Zhang Rong. Zhang Rong hummed, raised his chin, and motioned for Pei Yuan to sit and wait. Pei Yuan sat down, feeling anxious again. Since Zhang Rong wasn't the main guy, clearly the South Sanfusi's investigation wasn't totally baseless. The last time he came, Zhang Rong had hypocritically greeted him. This time, he clearly ignored him. The two sat in silence for a while. As time passed, it got quite awkward. Zhang Rong listlessly propped his chin and zoned out. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. He slapped his forehead and smiled at Pei Yuan. Hey, how did that thing happen? Tell me about it. Zhang Rong looked like he wasn't tired anymore, ready for a really good chat. Hearing this, Pei Yuan pursed his lips. Zhang Rong had no real ties with Pei Yuan and didn't care about his feelings at all. A mischievous look showed on his face as he teased, in that short time, was it you or her? Pei Yuan didn't know what to say for a moment. The bloody battle that day made his memory a bit blurry. It seemed that Mei Qingyang moved a few times. Pei Yuan didn't know if that counted. But thinking of her stubborn dying words, Pei Yuan felt that such a beautiful woman truly shouldn't have lived this life in vain. She should have no regrets. So, it must count. Besides, this debt of favor was clearly recorded. It just couldn't be repaid now. As Pei Yuan let his mind wander, the fat officer from before came in nervously and whispered to Zhang Rong, "He's here." Zhang Rong nodded slightly. Hearing faint sounds from the yard, he paused for a moment and stood up to greet him. His timing was perfectly measured. He met the visitor right at the hall entrance, acting exceptionally polite and respectful, while standing just a few steps higher. Zhang Rong laughed loudly. "I didn't expect such a small matter would trouble Commander Han to come personally. When my brother heard about it, he told me to toast you tonight, on his behalf at the dinner." Hearing this, Pei Yuan was secretly shocked. As the assistant commander of Jinui, Zhang Rong held such high power. Why was he so polite to a mere commander? Although this rank is only a 4th grade officer, if chief is added to the title, it becomes a 3rd grade rank. His status is above the Jinui commander. Moreover, Zhang Rong isn't just ordinary. In the middle of this year, to suddenly investigate the Grand Eunuch Lu Jin, the emperor appointed him to lead the Jinui. The previous Jinui commander, Shi Wenyi, fell right into his hands. Because of such a big shot holding the fort, the commander position is still vacant. Furthermore, Zhang Rong's brother is eunuch Zhang Yong. What right does this commander have to accept his toast? Pei Yuan slipped down, kneeling smoothly on the ground, waiting fearfully for the interrogation. At this moment, a clear voice replied, "You're too polite. I won't forget your brother's kindness." Saying this, the person walked right in. Zhang Rong's face was full of smiles, following behind and saying cheerfully, "Of course." Pei Yuan looked up in surprise, seeing the visitor was quite handsome, wearing a Jinui uniform, walking briskly into the hall. The person stopped in front of Pei Yuan and asked, "Are you Centurion Pei Yuan?" Pei Yuan's eyes swept over the slender calves wrapped under the flying fish suit. He didn't dare to look further up. That voice just now gave him a strong hint. And now there was no doubt. This Commander Han was actually a woman. But the Jinui was a mixed bag anyway. As far as Pei Yuan knew, besides titles given to royal relatives and children of merited officials, there was another huge group in the Jinui, and that was painters. Perhaps seeing past emperors obsessed with art, which ultimately led to the nation's downfall, Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang strictly ordered his descendants not to favor painters. But there's always a loophole. Since painters couldn't enter the civil service, they got their positions in the Jinui instead. Since the time of Emperor Taizong, many painters in the Jinui held empty titles like commander. Could this Commander Han have a similar background? While thinking this, it didn't delay Pei Yuan from kissing up to this female boss, whom even the head eunuch tried to please. It is me. Kneeling down to stay alive. Isn't embarrassing at all. Commander Han smiled, and gently held his arm to help him up. No need to be so polite. I'm a commander from the Nanjing Zenfusi. I have no authority over you. Pei Yuan tactfully stood up, only then noticing her words. Nanjing Zenfusi? Not South Zenfusi? Then he suddenly realized. The South Zenfusi was right over there. No wonder Zhang Rong mentioned coming to the capital. Pei Yuan couldn't help but feel suspicious. This involves a special situation in the Ming dynasty. Since Zhu Di's Jingnan campaign, the imperial court moved from Nanjing to Beijing. As the former capital, and to balance regional interests, the court still left a complete government body in Nanjing. Not only did it have full ministries, even the Jinui setup was fully intact. But Nanjing was far from the political center. Officials there were mostly just idling for retirement, and even the Nanjing Jinui had zero presence. Now, a Nanjing commander specially came here, and was highly valued by Zhang Yong and Zhang Rong. Pei Yuan had to take this seriously. As Pei Yuan stood up, he took a quick glance. This woman, known as Commander Han, had a heroic, somewhat masculine look. In women's clothes, she might just look ordinary but pleasant. But now, wearing a martial suit and a flying fish uniform, she actually looked quite beautiful to him. Pei Yuan quickly lowered his eyes, and said respectfully, "Status matters. I dare not be arrogant." Commander Han smiled. After everyone was seated, she looked at Pei Yuan and asked, "About the Plum Blossom Society case. How much do you know?" Pei Yuan's heart tightened. It finally came to this. He had figured it out by now. Even though Commander Han wasn't from the Southern Warden Office, the case happened right in Nanzili. If she insisted on asking, Beijing couldn't really object. Pei Yuan thought for a moment, and replied, "About the Plum Blossom Society, I don't know much either. Eunuch Lu Jin previously sent many tax inspectors down south. They were quite effective. After Eunuch Lu died, eunuchs Zhang and Qiu wanted to take over these people. But not long after, martial arts gangs repeatedly assassinated these tax inspectors. Eunuch Qiu suspected prominent Jiangnan families were behind this, so he targeted the Plum Blossom Society, hoping to root out more rebels." Seeing no reaction from Commander Han, Pei Yuan couldn't help but look up. She was playing with a small white porcelain cup in her hands, casually, listening. Pei Yuan knew. This probably wasn't her real purpose here. As soon as Pei Yuan paused, Commander Han asked what she really cared about. "What's the deal with that Mei Qingyang?" Being asked by a woman he found quite beautiful. Such a question, even with his iron will, Pei Yuan felt embarrassed. Perhaps seeing his hesitation, Zhang Rong impatiently urged, "Just say what you know. Don't waste Commander Han's time." Feeling helpless, Pei Yuan had to tell the whole story exactly as it happened. This time, Commander Han listened very carefully. Her bright eyes stared at him unblinking. Especially about his final moments with Mei Qingyang, she asked repeatedly. Pei Yuan was sure. She didn't mean to humiliate him at all. But looking at her serious expression, it seemed those romantic affairs were a puzzle that needed solving. After Pei Yuan finished, Commander Han stayed silent for a long time. Soon, that white porcelain cup was spinning deftly on her jade-like fingers again. She looked at him for a while, before asking, "How do you think Mei Qingyang saw you?" Pei Yuan was confused. What kind of question was that? She seemed to know she wouldn't get much out of him, and muttered to herself, but anyway. You must be somewhat special to her. Pei Yuan finally couldn't hold back, and asked, forgive my rudeness, but what's the point of this? Commander Han flicked her thumb, flipping the cup in her palm. She smiled lightly, if a person is dead, of course it doesn't matter. But if some sorcerer turned her into a vengeful spirit, we have to find a way to lure her out. Pei Yuan was shocked. Sorcerers? Vengeful ghosts? He felt overwhelmed for a moment. Then, he suddenly remembered something that didn't make sense. They say death wipes out all debts. Since Mei Qingyang was already killed by arrows, how could she still appear in his list of uncollected favor debts? Zhang Rong seemed to know something, and chimed in, don't ask what you shouldn't. Commander Han didn't mind. She smiled, we'll need him later. There's nothing to hide. With that, she gripped the cup in her hand, and said flatly, the existence of our office has never been a secret. It's just that over time, nobody bothers to mention it. But in the two capitals, there are plenty of people working in plain sight. Pei Yuan was totally confused, but he remembered Zhang Rong's words, and kept quiet. Commander Han continued, my office is called the Evil Suppression Office. When Emperor Taizu first set it up, it was meant to hunt down Ming cult remnants. After the cult leader died, and its top masters vanished, our office shifted to hunting sorcerers and suppressing other evil cults. Hearing about the Ming cult remnants, Pei Yuan's heart skipped a beat. Zhu Yuanzhang was originally a Ming cult member. After gaining power, he eliminated the little Ming king to rule alone. This fact wasn't a secret at all among the common folk, but it was highly taboo in official circles. Who would dare bring it up? Pei Yuan's forehead began to sweat. He quickly said, I'm ignorant. This is the first time I've heard this. Commander Han gave a half smile and spun the cup again. You must know about the Xinji Taoists, right? They are our office's eyes and ears and temples. She looked at Zhang Rong and smirked, we are loyal to our duties, working hard, and doing everything above board. I don't know who has such a dark mind to make us look like sneaking rats. Zhang Rong wiped his sweat, it was Emperor Taizong's order. Who dares to say a word? The Evil Suppression Office hunting Ming cult remnants and tracking folk sorcerers is unseemly work. How can it be made public? Hearing the words, Xinji Taoists, Pei Yuan suddenly realized the truth, and felt even more awe. The Ming dynasty rose to power with the Ming cult, so they strictly controlled these monks and Taoists, who could incite the masses. Any temple or shrine of a decent size had a Xinji Taoist stationed there. Later generations might find this hard to understand, but Journey to the West, which matured in the Ming dynasty, faithfully reflected this phenomenon. In that one chapter, the Bodhisattvas asked Buddha to reveal the root of all things and explain the origins. Buddha opened his mouth, elaborated on the great law, and preached the true path. He spoke of sacred texts and the 5 skandhas. Heavenly dragons circled around, and flowers rained down. After Buddha finished speaking, he told the crowd, the 4 continents, the good and evil of all beings, differ across the regions. In the eastern continent, they respect heaven and earth, and their minds are calm. In the northern continent, though they like to kill, it's just to feed themselves. They are dull by nature, and do little harm. In our South Asian subcontinent, there is no greed or killing. They nurture their spirits. Though not fully divine, everyone lives a long life. But in the southern continent, they are greedy and revel in disaster. They fight and kill constantly. It's a fierce battlefield of words, and an evil sea of gossip. I now have 3 true scriptures that can urge them to be good. After Buddha finished bragging, he sent Guanyin to the east to find a scripture seeker. Guanyin took the cassock Buddha gave her, the 9-ring staff, and the 3 golden bands. She came down from Spirit Mountain. As soon as she reached the foot of the mountain, she was stopped by the great immortal of the Golden Peak from Yuzhen Temple. Where are you going? Come back and register. Guanyin didn't expect that after being so fired up by Buddha, after all that passion, she still had to register at the bottom of the mountain. The Bodhisattva didn't dare delay. She said, by Buddha's decree, I'm heading east to find a scripture seeker. The immortal asked, when will this seeker arrive? The Bodhisattva said, "It's uncertain. Probably in 2 or 3 years." By the time Guanyin finished registering, her mood had dampened quite a bit. Does this career even have a future? Later generations might find this strange when reading. This is total bullshit, right? Right at the foot of Buddha's spirit mountain, the Grand Guanyin still has to register with a Taoist? But it's not strange. Fiction comes from reality. This was exactly how people in the Ming Dynasty saw the world. That's why in Ming Dynasty novels, whether it's the Guanyin Monastery of the Reserved Elder, or Buddha's Spirit Mountain, there are always Taoists managing the comings and goings. These Taoists who lord over all temples and shrines were exactly these Xinji Taoists. This powerful force outside the secular world is officially under the Ministry of Rites. But after hearing these secrets today, Pei Yuan understood it all. The beautiful leader of the Xinxia command is actually the real chief of all true Taoists. If it were someone else, maybe they'd just think, the Xinxia command only has some religious influence. Its official duties are a bit niche, and it's barely worth mentioning otherwise. But Pei Yuan is just the exception. He followed the Eastern Bureau to Nanjing to crack down on the Plum Blossom Society. Got a lot of key info from them. The chaos caused by the Plum Blossom Society looked like basic martial artists attacking tax officials, trying to grab cash. But Pei Yuan sensed something dangerous from all those piled up reports. The Ming Dynasty had decades of peace. Southern China's economy was booming. In the Sifuzai literary series, there's a summary about the mid-Ming commerce, evaluating the business growth in the south. Before Xingde's reign, only 11 out of 100 commoners worked in government, 19 in farming, but many switched to trade, 3 times more than before. People who never worked with their hands now left farming for jobs. That's another 20 to 30%. Out of 10 shares of land, according to the People, 6 or 7 left farming. Just the population in industry and commerce was several times bigger than before. Business and industry got way bigger too. But at the same time, revenue from taxes kept dropping. This hurt a lot of interests deeply. That's not how it should work. Once the lower ranks took their cuts, how's anyone at the top supposed to survive? So to take direct control and grab hold of the finances, the palace sent loads of tax supervisors to the south, into all the business-heavy provinces. Tax revenue improved drastically after that, but it pissed off the wealthy southern gentry. But the man in charge was Lu Jing, Lord Lu. So everyone just had to swallow their anger. Over time, things suddenly changed. One day, Lu Jin's ally, Minister of Rites Zhang Kai, told Lord Lu, "We're getting ripped off. Did you know?" Lu Jin was shocked. "How could this happen to me?" Zhang Kai said these officials and tax supervisors are working locally under Lu Jin's name, raking it in. But most of the money goes in their own pockets. They only give a tiny bit to you. But the bad reputation for extortion falls entirely on you. Think about it carefully. Doesn't that suck? Lu Jin couldn't sit still. Damn, I'm totally getting screwed. So he humbly asked Zhang Kai for advice. What should I do then? Zhang Kai instantly came up with a super sharp move. Instead of corrupt, we go anti-corruption. Let's lock up all those crooked officials. The people will praise us. And we take everything. So Lu Jin ordered a crackdown, checking all local treasuries for losses. Any sign of corruption, he'd hold them responsible. Just in a year, Lu Jin recovered 8 years of losses for the court. Even those were leftovers from his own share. And in the process, the tea tray and efficiency ideas came up. Later influenced Gao Gong and Zhang Juzheng, laying the groundwork for the Longqing revival. Ministers saw Lu Jin's talent and praised him highly. An able minister in times of peace, a hero in times of chaos. That made Lu Jin, who barely read as a kid, super thrilled. Next year, he was executed. After Lu Jin died, his successor Zhang Yong didn't dare push anti-corruption, but sending more tax supervisors didn't stop. Lu Jin was gone. So now Lu Jin's money became Zhang Yong's money. And Zhang Yong wasn't even that greedy, whether in the palace or court. There were plenty willing to help him get it done. Like Choju, Gu Daong held key roles. And the likes of Gao Feng and Ma Yongqing were losing power. Everyone cared about direct taxes. Not long after Lu Jin died, Zhang Yong sent his trusted men to the south. Just as the harvest was near, martial artists like Plum Blossom Society struck. Pei Yuan grew up on the streets. He'd heard plenty of martial tales. He knew southern clans held huge sway. These clans ruled their turf, sometimes more than the government. If you kept peace on the surface, fine. But if the government insisted on crossing lines, not only would court officials speak up, random martial artists would warn you. Some without any real ties would send a warning. When street toughs chatted, they liked to brag about rebels who slipped dead dogs into a magistrate's bed, or perverts who spent a night with a censor's daughter and got away clean. These shady things didn't get talked about openly, but had big intimidation power. Most outside local officials just kept quiet for a term, or joined in, becoming allies of the local clans. Those famous martial artists mostly camped in famous mountain sites, or monasteries, temples. Those places had lands and wealth, so they could shelter idle young men, with little government interference. Hiding a small private army was no big deal. When Lu 6 and Lu 7 rebelled in Hebei a couple years ago, they even raised a force right under the capital's nose. Over 10,000 people. The Plum Blossom Society in Nanjing was just the tip of the iceberg. There were also Qingxia, Tuaming, Hua Mountain, Wudong, and Kongdong groups. Those names rampaged across the south, and the government couldn't control them. Some places people said the emperor's power never reached the counties. Like the Ming dynasty got split into two worlds. One ruled by the emperor and officials, looking polished on the surface. The other with clans and martial artists, where hidden currents surged. The true Taoists of Jinxia Command only ran a few temples and monasteries. But those spots were strong, had big backing, and also linked with smaller temples by incense ties. So, Jinxia Command became the main gate for the court to deal with martial artists. Simply put, they were the official hounds hated by martial artists. After learning Han Qianhu's identity, Pei Yuan even felt, if this good-looking officer suddenly tore off the imperial uniform and revealed dragon and tiger tattoos on her arms, he wouldn't be surprised at all. Pei Yuan grew even more respectful. So, I wonder what orders you have for me, Commander. Commander Han didn't hold back either. He got straight to the point. That fierce ghost painted by Mei Qingyang caused quite a stir in South Zhili. There's a tricky villain behind it. I led a few raids but couldn't catch him. I'm planning to start with Mei Qingyang. See if we can lure him out. Commander Han paused there, looked at Pei Yuan and asked, I'm going to temporarily assign you to me, at my assistant commander's office. Do you have any objections? Hearing that, Pei Yuan instantly remembered the system notification. Social debt should be collected, debt 1/1. You fulfilled Mei Qingyang's dying wish. You can ask her for a favor. Pei Yuan smiled, but was cursing inside. He hesitated for a moment, then answered, that's not a decision I can make. It depends on the inspectorate's opinion. He hadn't thought of a good excuse yet, when Zhang Rong snorted coldly and said, Commander Han, we need you for this. This is your good luck. Don't be ungrateful. Commander Han ignored that, and laughed as he looked at Pei Yuan. Pei Yuan knew this was basically decided. If he kept resisting, Commander Han might just bring 80 guys to chop him up. Who knows? So he gritted his teeth and said, of course I'll obey. But can we delay it by 2 days? Commander Han listened, and asked curiously, why's that? Pei Yuan didn't want to bring it up, but had to tell the truth now. In 2 days, it's the inspectorate's grain distribution. I want to get my monthly pay, then follow you for work. Commander Han was confused when he heard that. Thought this guy was really weird. You're a proper 6th rank officer in the court. Even here, you won't miss out on your pay. What, you think the Nanjing government can't pay up? Pei Yuanho gulped. He whispered, I really need to pay off some debts soon. If I miss the deadline, the interest will just pile up again. Talking about Pei Yuan's debts, it's really complicated. His father owed a few hundred taels when he was still alive. And Pei's old man loved to drink. Whenever he got his pay, or some shady kickbacks, he'd go drinking like there's no tomorrow. He didn't care about anything else. Pei Yuan grew up worried, always afraid. Being chased at the door by debt collectors. Happened all the time. When Pei Yuan finally got older, he couldn't take it anymore, so he took over his dad's debts. He barely kept things together with 60 taels a year, plus some money from shady sources. Just enough to support both of them. To keep debts from blowing up, Pei Yuan took out a bunch of small loans, and paid off the big chunk owed to the Shaning Marquis. He kept juggling things to control the debt. Shaning Marquis charged brutal interest. If you couldn't finish paying, no matter how much you paid early, when it's time for interest, they calculate it on the full amount, then add it back to the debt. Once Pei Yuan paid that off, the smaller loans became easier to handle. He could always pay them back right before interest was due. That was when Pei Yuan was only 9. Pei Yuan at age 9 was responsible for over 100 debts. It was like an empire of misery. Early this year, his dad passed away. Without those extra earnings, Pei Yuan's debt empire was about to collapse. The only good news was, he somehow awakened this debt settlement system. And now, he's old enough to inherit a legitimate 6th-rank officer position. Pei Yuan's family's hereditary post goes back 3 generations. In the first year of Jingtai, after Tumu Fortress, lots of soldiers died, and there were rumors the Oirat army would invade again. There wasn't enough forage in Datong and Xuanfu, so the emperor gave special mercy, letting people donate forage for positions. After that decree, most northern nobles jumped at it. The next year, the emperor declared, haha. He was joking before. The Oirat might not invade, so the prosperous era is just the beginning. And then raised the price, so people could donate for hereditary military posts, with actual positions in the Jini Wei. Pei Yuan's great-grandfather seized the opportunity, donated grain, less than 600 units, and earned a real post as a Jini Wei officer. He was a businessman all his life, never really lost out. Soon after joining Jini Wei, because he was generous and sharp-minded, became a trusted aide of Jini Wei commander Lu Zhong. From a 6th-rank officer, he got promoted to a full 6th-rank position. Later, because of a case involving the former emperor, he and Commander Lu Zhong got imprisoned together. When the emperor was restored, Commander Lu Zhong was executed. Pei Yuan's great-grandfather spent everything he had, finally cut ties with Lu Zhong, and survived. But aside from leaving behind the officer title, there was nothing else left for the family. Maybe after those ups and downs, Pei Yuan's grandfather lived more wisely. When both passed away, all Pei Yuan had left was that officer title, plus a mountain of old debts. Pei Yuan's inherited officer post might not have much status, but the court showed a lot of goodwill. For over 50 years, he gets a real salary, 10 dan every month. Compared to the original 600 dan, that's over 10 times more. But so what? A stone of rice now sells for 5 silver coins. Even if Pei Yuan goes all year without spending, he saves only 60 taels a year. That amount isn't even enough for yearly interest on his hundreds of taels owed. Later, a friend reminded him, if he could somehow get another officer post, maybe he could earn some extra cash, help out his living expenses. By now, it's the 6th year of Jingda. A small officer post is nothing. Even many higher commanders wait every day for vacancies. Like in the famous Jean Ping Mei novel, Commander Chen, who couldn't get his post, had to open a coffin shop to survive. Hereditary Commander Xia Shida could only sing for tips. After the protagonist Shimin Qing died, even his official post was eyed early. Pei Yuan asked around. These days the price for a real officer post at Jini Wei is 3,000 taels. Compared to what his dad paid, the price has multiplied many times. Now Pei Yuan's meager salary barely covers basic living, let alone paying off his dad's gambling debts. Dreaming of buying another post is impossible now. Good thing Pei Yuan has this debt settlement system, maybe he can make a big move. So, Pei Yuan found powerful creditors to ask around, and got a reply. Gu Deyong, a gambler who just likes small bets. The plan was to borrow 3,000 taels from Gu Deyong to buy a real position. But when the debt settlement system forced the loan, Pei Yuan uncovered a weird problem. He can forcibly borrow money, but he can't force someone to sell him a post. Especially using Gu Deyong's own money to buy a post from Gu Deyong. That's like robbing him blind. Seeing Gu Deyong about to flip out, Pei Yuan blanked out and shouted, 30,000 taels. A Genie Wei officer post costs 3,000 taels. Because after getting the job, you really could earn back 3,000 taels. When the premium hit 10 times, this loan stopped being just a loan and became a venture for mega profits. Even Gu Deyong couldn't resist that temptation. After all, the money goes out and comes right back. So, Pei Yuan's debt empire was hit hard. And the debt settlement system updated the debt ceiling, plus a forced settlement date for overspending. The trouble was just getting started. Pei Yuan borrowed 30,000 taels from Gu Deyong and hid it from many people, but not his caring creditors. Even though Pei Yuan insisted, Mr. Gu knows his financial situation and isn't rushing him to pay back. Some lenders still panicked. Many even swore, as long as he repaid the principal in time, they'd forgive the interest. Pei Yuan had to quickly borrow more long-term loans, using his new position as leverage, and settle some that were about to expire. If he waited until returning from Nanjing, it'd be too late. He'd lose it all. After Pei Yuan finished speaking vaguely, Han Qianhu said, "Oh. Li Xiao often deals with folks from the marketplace and underworld. Not that he's above it all." He thought it over and snapped his fingers. The small white porcelain cup in his hand flew toward Pei Yuan. Pei Yuan quickly caught it with both hands. He smiled and said, "How about this? As your commanding officer, I'll pay you your monthly salary in advance, so you have nothing to worry about. This cup in your hand is my token. Take it to the nearest temple or Taoist shrine. Find someone and ask for 6 taels of silver. Anything extra is yours as a reward. Tomorrow at noon, meet me here." Pei Yuan was quite surprised. He was a 6th-rank officer. He could get 10 dan of grain each month. But the value in silver wasn't stable. It was just an estimate. For example, this year in northern Zhili, there was a rebellion. So the price of rice was always above 5 qian per dan. That's a bit over 5 taels of silver. In Hunan, the drought continues. So a share of rice sells for 1 tael and 2 qian. But Hunan is too far. So shipping it isn't practical. In theory, official salaries could also be converted from rice straight to silver. This year, 2 jin is set at 7 qian of silver per share. So at that official price, Pei Yuan could get 7 taels. But if you really believe that, you're too naive. Because when calculated at the official rate, you don't actually get the full amount. They have to make adjustments. During tax collection in the Ming Dynasty, because money didn't circulate well, they ran a dual system of currency and goods. For example, in the south, silk was plentiful. So for taxes, it was easier to pay in silk than in grain. So the court allowed people to pay taxes in silk directly. Those tax rates first convert the silk to money, then the money to the grain owed. When converting silk to money, they took a cut. When converting money to grain, they took another cut. The officials were all quite happy. This was considered good policy. Slowly the warehouse filled up with a bunch of random useless stuff. The court was troubled too. So the court thought, why not just convert all that stuff back to salaries and hand them out? By then, the officials were just dumbfounded. Damn. Pei Yuan is a rank 6 official. His annual salary is 120 shur of grain. If you break down this 120 shur of grain, 66 shur is paid in actual grain. 54 shur is paid as a substitute. For the 66 shur of real grain, he gets 12 shur of rice, 45 shur in silver, and 9 shur in silk vouchers. Of the 54 shur paid as substitutes, 27 shur is in cloth, and another 27 shur is in Ming banknotes. Because the Ming notes were printed like crazy by the court, they lost value fast. During the Jingde era, they were worthless. So, those 27 shur in banknotes were basically as good as nothing. The silk and cloth portions, 9 and 27 shur, are worth less than a tenth of the stated value. Only the 45 shur in silver can actually be counted as grain at the rate of 7 qian per shur. If you do the math this way, Pei Yuan gets ripped off. If the Jinhui wasn't such a powerful department, and didn't give out full rations under the table, Pei Yuan's dead empire would have crashed by now. Han the battalion commander lent a hand to Pei Yuan, and straight up gave him 6 taels of pure silver. That's pretty generous. After Han finished speaking, he noticed Pei Yuan still looked lost. Thinking he didn't know what to do, he smiled and asked, "What's up? Do you need me to go get it for you myself?" The Jinhui commander Zhang Rong was nearby, and laughed. "The Jihua temple isn't far from here." Han's smile faded a bit, and he casually said, "Jihua temple works." Pei Yuan gripped his small white porcelain cup, and frowned slightly, slowly leaving the Northern Guard's office. The flag bearer he'd brought along earlier nervously came over, and asked, "Sir, what did they say?" Pei Yuan had no extra hands available. This flag bearer had also been let go from the Eastern Depot with him. He's in his 30s, and goes by the name Chen Tutai. According to the eunuchs of the Eastern Depot, he's really skilled at interrogations, and never botched a case. When Pei was sent south, the Eastern Depot wanted to boost his team, so they assigned Chen Tutai to Pei Yuan. The plan was, if Pei Yuan was doomed, Meihua society would get interrogated on the spot, with torture, and then go arrest the real mastermind. But things never go as planned. Chen Tutai didn't even get a chance to mess up before Pei Yuan lost his own career. Even Chief Eunuch Qiu Ju got humiliated, and after that, everyone involved was dismissed. They all went back to the Jinhui. Chen Tutai, now unwanted, was totally confused. He'd been on loan to the Eastern Depot for over a decade, and had no real connections inside the Jinhui. So now there was nowhere to assign him. He had no choice, and figured, Pei Yuan, at least, is a rank 6 officer, which beats being a lowly flag bearer. So once back at Jinhui, he kept following Pei Yuan, sticking with him through thick and thin. Now, with Pei Yuan's job basically meaningless, he was glad to have someone on his side. He actually cared about this only follower. He felt he should give Chen Tutai some hope. Honestly, aside from ideals, there wasn't much else Pei Yuan could offer Chen. Pei Yuan quickly comforted him, "Don't worry. The Jinhui down in Nanjing think highly of me. A battalion commander there wants me for a job. If the assignment pays well, I'll get you transferred over with me." Chen Tutai grinned with delight. "I'm counting on you, sir." The past few days had been rough on Chen Tutai too. Now at the Northern Guard's office, he's just an honorary flag bearer, and no one pays him any mind. Without ways to make money, he's no different from those officials who just draw empty salaries. What's the difference, really? Think about all the work Pei Yuan did for his job at first, and you'll see how tough things are for Chen now. So you can imagine how uncomfortable Chen feels. Nanjing's guard's office isn't as powerful as Beijing's, but the good thing is it's far from the capital. Plus, it's Jiangnan, a booming, prosperous place, full of lively, beautiful scenes. Find a few rich merchants without connections, and you can live well. Once they'd slowly left the alley, Pei Yuan quietly asked Chen, "By the way, do you know which temple or Taoist shrine is nearest to us?" Chen Tutai hesitated. I'm not too sure. Yuanxi temple seems pretty close. Guangxi nunnery is around, too." Honestly, can't blame Chen Tutai for this. The reasons are kind of complicated. It's just not that simple. Since the founding of the Ming, the policy has always been to strictly limit the number of temples and nunneries. If every good location became a temple, and all the fertile land became temple property, how would ordinary people survive? Back in the 6th year of Hongwu, the emperor ordered no excessive temples. Fuzhou County could only have one big temple or nunnery, and all others had to be merged. In the 15th year of Yongle, Emperor Zhu decreed no more temples everywhere. Monks and nuns couldn't build private shrines, laws had to be followed, and violators would be punished. In the 10th year of Jingtong, Emperor Zhu Qizhen ordered no more pillars for worship, meaning no new buildings, with strict bans and restrictions. And in the 21st year of Changhua, Emperor Zhu Jianchen declared no more pillars for worship. Anyone daring to build more temples, or claiming to restore old temples, would be punished too. From the founding until now, almost every administration used no more pillars as their guideline. Many imperial edicts were issued about it. Yet after all this pressure year after year, by the Jingde era, just in Beijing alone, There were already over 810 temples known by name. Who knows how many small, unregistered temples there were? Let's compare it like this. According to the Jinling model, back then Nanjing had 180 temples. Of course, this number isn't complete. Other records found over 20 more. They're not duplicates, either. So let's say about 200 in total. Plus, according to the Jinling model, there were more than 100 small temples not even recorded. So, about half of Nanjing's temples were small ones. That means there were at least half as many small temples as known ones. By that calculation, Beijing alone had at least 400 small temples. So that's a capital with at least 1,200 temples. Forget about Chintutai. Even if you called in the heads of both the monks and roads offices, they'd be stumped too. After listening to Chen, Pei Yuan mumbled quietly, so? Why does Zhang Rong want me to go all the way to Jihua Temple? Pei Yuan was mulling over what just happened, turning the situation over and over in his mind. Han, the battalion commander, told Pei Yuan to find a temple nearby with a Taoist priest, to get the silver, which was really no big deal. But Zhang Rong, the Jinyue commander, butted in for no reason, which was odd. Maybe because Han is based in Nanjing, Zhang Rong thought he was unfamiliar with the local temples, so he wanted to use this chance for something. Makes sense, with over 1,000 temples in Beijing. Han, coming from Nanjing, wouldn't know them all. Of course you have no idea about this stuff. Pei Yuan walked slowly. Pretty soon, the officer who brought Pei Yuan into the Northern Patrol Division appeared at the corner of the alley. He had no smile on his face. He said flatly, "Let's just call today an introduction." He tossed a small piece of silver over. In a deep voice, he said, "My name's Sun Bo." With that, not saying anything else, the officer turned and left. Pei Yuan squeezed the silver in his hand, and for the first time, felt it burn in his palm. Chen Tutai caught up. He asked, still confused, "Sir, what was that about?" Pei Yuan shook his head. Then he whispered, "Just don't ask what you shouldn't. Come with me. Jihua Temple, Jihua Temple." Chen Tutai clicked his tongue. That place doesn't have a good reputation. Jihua Temple is a well-known temple in Beijing. It covers over 2 hectares. There's the main hall, side halls, bell and drum towers, and the Great Compassion Hall. And there are hundreds of monk quarters. It's as grand as the Confucius Temple in Beijing. This place was originally the family temple of Wang Zhen, head eunuch of the Directorate of Ceremonies. After the Tuma crisis, Wang Zhen's family was wiped out. But since Jihua Temple was built by order of Emperor Yingzong, it was kept safe. Later, when Yingzong returned to power, he also built a heroic shrine for Wang Zhen at Jihua Temple. People resented Wang Zhen for ruining the country, so even Jihua Temple got a bad reputation. It was never crowded with worshippers. Even though Wang Zhen had a terrible end, he was the first eunuch to hold real power in Ming history. A lot of ambitious eunuchs, after leaving the palace, would come by in secret to pay respects. Pei Yuan thought about all these random things. While guessing what kind of plan Zhang Rong had, he walked toward Jihua Temple. Sometimes, knowing a secret isn't the worst thing. The real trouble is when others think you know, but you actually don't. Pei Yuan was pressed for time. He made it to Jihua Temple before noon. There weren't many worshippers here. The monks weren't as arrogant as at other temples. A monk sweeping in front of the gate saw 2 low-ranking officers coming, and hurried to inform the guest monk. The guest monk had no clue, but came over warmly to greet them. Pei Yuan didn't waste time. He said directly, "I'm here on official business. I need to see the master of this temple, the Taoist priest." Chen Tutai spoke up from behind, demanding fiercely, "Show us the way." Pei Yuan glanced back at him, thinking, this guy Chen Tutai is such a snob. If this were at Xi'an Temple, would he still put on this act? If so, I'd actually respect him. Among today's Buddhist sects, Tibetan Buddhism and Indian Tantric Buddhism are the most prominent. Just how prominent are they? They even have a very strict hierarchy. The first rank is called the Grand Benevolent Dharma King. The second rank is the Western Buddha Sun. The third rank is the Grand Imperial Preceptor. The fourth is the Imperial Preceptor. The fifth is the Zen Master. The sixth is the Dugong. The seventh is the Lama. What's most envied is, this hierarchy isn't just officially recognized, but also, based on their rank, they receive various special government privileges daily. In short, they're on the payroll. So the lamas think every day, I must practice diligently, and one day become a dugong. The imperial preceptors think every day, Grand Imperial Preceptor. Don't underestimate a man in his youth. Next time in Bianjing, I'll definitely beat you. And become a Grand Imperial Preceptor. The Western Buddha sons think daily. Everyone below a Buddha son is an ant. Haha. So the Grand Benevolent Dharma King is super strong? The most dominant one? Not exactly, because above the Grand Benevolent Dharma King, there's the truly unbeatable Grand Celebration Dharma King. The full title is Grand Celebration Dharma King, Western Heaven Awakened Dao Yuan. His name is at the Grand Conclave. And the Buddhas aren't done yet. Emperor Zhu Hozhao of the Great Ming. This was a Buddha title newly added last year. Tibetan Buddhism and Indian Tantric Buddhism are favored by royalty and nobility, not because their dharma is so profound, but because the monks are especially good at male enhancement. Among them, the secret teachings favored by Emperor Chenghua are the pinnacle of the bedroom arts. This Emperor Chenghua granted titles of Dharma King, Buddha Son, and Imperial Preceptor to 437 people, making the Buddhist sect's influence soar. Envious, the various Taoist sects also wanted to replicate this promotion system. It said they already had terms like Qi refinement and foundation establishment, golden core, and nascent soul. But after they spread the word, since the court completely ignored them, nothing came of it. Kasin, seeing Chen Taoti's assertiveness, and that it was Xinji Taoist, hurriedly led the way himself. This Xinji Taoist was nominally managed by the Ministry of Rites, responsible for relaying orders and handling temple taxes. But in reality, he was an informer for the Genuine temples and Taoist monasteries. The strict legal standards for monks and Taoists, coupled with declining societal morals, created huge room for profit. If those monks wanted to enjoy peace and pleasure, then cultivating Xinji Taoist and seeking explicit tacit agreement became crucial. In some of the larger temples, the Xinji Taoists acting as informers were all treated like big shots. Arriving at Xinji Taoist's private chamber, the Zhika monk peeked in and saw no one. He turned back, forcing a smile. Perhaps he's in the back. Chen Tutai, in the meditation hall, didn't know the ropes. Seeing Pei Yuan swagger confidently into the room, he then yelled, "Go fetch him quickly." The Zhika monk dared not delay, and quickly went to find Xinji Taoist. Soon after, they heard an impatient voice, asking as it approached from the corridor, "Is it someone from the Ministry of Rites or the Jinui?" They heard the Zhika monk whisper a few words. The impatient voice then yelled, "What's wrong with the Jinui? Zhang Rong can't control me either." Chen Tutai sensed something was wrong, and quickly glanced at Pei Yuan. Seeing Pei Yuan sitting calmly, he straightened his back a bit too. Soon, a burly man in a messy Taoist robe, with a roughly tied Taoist bun, appeared at the door. Perhaps he'd walked too fast. His flapping robe revealed brand new official boots. He was grim-faced, and glanced up. Seeing Pei Yuan in his seat, his face darkened even more. Before Xinji Taoist could speak, Pei Yuan leaned and slowly raised his right hand. His right hand formed a fist, thumb cocked up, with that small white porcelain cup on it. Pei Yuan's gaze quickly darted to that high-held, small white porcelain cup for a glance, then looked back at Xinji Taoist. That rough-looking fellow, however, looked as if he'd seen some monstrous beast. His ankles went weak, and he nearly tripped to the ground. Then, the muscles on his face relaxed as if from exhaustion. Deathly pale, he tremblingly asked, "What crime has Chang Zhihu committed? The old Qian who ordered his death?" Pei Yuan saw Chang Zhihu wringing his hands and sweating profusely. He thought, that's odd. Could this token have another use? I'm here to collect money. I shouldn't let Chang Zhihu misunderstand too much. However, Pei Yuan, recalling Zhang Rong's peculiar actions, wasn't in a hurry to explain. He imitated Qianhu Han, flicked his thumb, making the small white porcelain cup jump into his hand, then casually placed it on the table. Then he stood up and slowly walked to Chang Zhihu. Grabbing his lapel, he straightened the hastily donned Taoist robe for him. Under his palm, he clearly felt Chang Zhihu's fear and unease. Pei Yuan's heart settled. Only then did he casually ask, "Why say that?" Chang Jihu wiped his sweat with his robe sleeve. And stammered, My subordinates are ineffective. Qian Huhan would use this cup to bestow calming wine. Which of us brothers doesn't know this? Pei Yuan was startled too. If not for Chang Jihu, he'd want to immediately wash his hands. But he dared not act rashly now. Pei Yuan knew the limits. He forced a smile and said, "Then you might be overly alarmed. Whether Qian Huhan is satisfied with you, I don't know. He sent me to you for something else." Pei Yuan worried if his hand was poisoned. His smile was very unnatural. But to Chang Jihu, that forced smile seemed rather inscrutable. Chang Jihu quickly wiped his sweat and said obsequiously, "Sir, just command." As he spoke, he glanced at Pei Yuan's expression. Eager to curry favor, he continued, "I often hear people say, Qian Huhan has 5 Baihu under him. Each is highly skilled and unfathomably mysterious. This humble servant hasn't had the fortune to meet them. May I ask your name, sir?" Pei Yuan had no need to lie. He immediately smiled. "Qian Huhan also only asked me to work for him today. My name's Pei." Pei Yuan intended to pump Chang Jihu for information, so he deliberately played coy. How Chang Jihu understood it was his business. What Pei Yuan said had to be the truth. Chang Jihu quickly regreeted Pei Yuan. His gaze alternated between the small white porcelain cup and Pei Yuan. His inner anxiety couldn't be suppressed even by forced calm. Pei Yuan sat back down in his chair. He saw Chang Jihu haphazardly wearing a Taoist robe, unable to discern his rank from his complexion, and wanted to understand the ins and outs of the Jinji Taoist organization. So, putting aside official business, he asked, "What's your current official rank?" Chang Jihu was uneasy, quickly wiping his sweat, and answered honestly, "I used to be a powerful figure along the Huai River. Later on, I saved up some money. So I decided to buy an official post for a peaceful life. Just happened to meet Chief Han, who needed people. He accepted me. I joined the Nanjing Embroidered Uniform Guard as a minor flag officer. Afterwards, Chief Han asked about my wishes. Chang Jihu smiled bitterly and said I'd fought half my life. I don't have big ambitions anymore. So Chief Han arranged this easy job for me. Now I work as a needle-felting Taoist at Jihua Temple." Pei Yuan thought, no wonder. This guy doesn't seem like a military household heir. Turns out he comes from a humble background. Hearing Chang Jihu became a Taoist partway through life, Pei Yuan was a bit disappointed. He didn't expect to learn too much about Jinxia Guard's secrets. So he said, "Chief Han came to the capital today. I'm here this time because he told me to collect 6 taels of silver." After speaking, Pei Yuan purposely glanced at the white porcelain cup. He asked, "Do you need any proof from me?" Chang Jihu felt it was a little strange. Couldn't figure out why Chief Han himself would care about 6 taels of silver. When Pei Yuan asked, he could only reply, "I wouldn't dare." "Of course not, I'll get it right away." Chang Jihu hurried out of the room and saw the guest monk nearby, watching. He quickly pulled the guest monk over, lowered his head and gave a few instructions. The guest monk quickly left after hearing. Chang Jihu returned to chat. Pei Yuan remembered his other purpose. Then casually asked, "These days, has anything unusual happened at Jihua Temple?" Chang Jihu hesitated after hearing, but finally answered honestly, "Yes. The day before yesterday, some eunuchs from the palace came to pay respects to Wang Zhen. I went to ask. The visitor was Zhang Yong, eunuch Zhang. Jihua Temple used to be Wang Zhen's family temple. An old monk here even saw Wang Zhen back then." Eunuch Zhang was pretty interested and asked about Wang Zhen's life stories. Then he left. Pei Yuan frowned. The eunuchs paying respects to Wang Zhen carries political meaning, almost like scholarly officials submitting a petition, like honoring with the 9 bestowments. Zhang Yong just took down Lu Jin. Now he's really on top. He should be keeping a low profile now. Even if he wanted to pay respects, why come in person? If he's not careful, it could send the wrong signal to everyone. Pei Yuan saw Chang Jihu had more to say, and asked, "Anything else?" Chang Jihu glanced at Chen Tutai, looking a bit hesitant. Chen Tutai knew there was a secret, and naturally tried to step outside. Pei Yuan told Chang Jihu, "It's fine. He's with me." Chang Jihu then lowered his voice and said, "The emperor came yesterday. He also questioned the monks in the temple. Later, hearing Daoist Qinji was a spy here, he called me over and asked about the secret faction privately. He even asked me to check something for him. Pei Yuan quickly asked, "What is it?" Chang Zhihu said, "The emperor wants to know. After Emperor Yingzong rebuilt Zhihua Temple, did he ever visit? And did he leave any words behind?" Seeing Pei Yuan deep in thought, Chang Zhihu continued, "Early this morning, Zhang Yong, commander of the Imperial Guards, sent someone to ask about this. But since it involves the emperor, if Zhang Yong came here himself, I would have done him a favor. But since he just sent someone over, how dare I leak the emperor's affairs?" Hearing this, Pei Yuan immediately understood. Zhang Yong came the day before yesterday, and the emperor came yesterday. Either the emperor doesn't trust Zhang Yong, or the emperor has other plans, and doesn't want too many people to know. And it's quite obvious he wants to keep it from Zhang Yong. This underlying attitude and secret naturally make Zhang Yong anxious. You see, in a way, Zhang Yong bears a very strong resemblance to Wang Zhen. After taking down Lu Jin, Zhang Yong, Grand Secretary Li Dongyang, and Governor Yang Yiqing formed an alliance that grew even stronger, though not as powerful as Wang Zhen was. When the Directorate, the Cabinet, and the Border Army unite into a single fist, they can crush any opposition. Wang Zhen in particular was obsessed with military affairs and kept meddling with Oirat policies. As for Zhang Yong, although he's a eunuch, he's skilled in archery and riding, and quite courageous. He commands the 12 regiments and the firearms division. And during the rebellion of Prince Anhua, he personally oversaw the troops. Powerful and obsessed with the military, Qiu Ju, director of the Eastern Depot, once slyly compared Zhang Yong to Wang Zhen. The emperor's sudden inquiry about Wang Zhen naturally makes Zhang Yong very restless. Wang Zhen's reputation is ruined, not just among scholars, but even in the eyes of the common people. It's been garbage for a long time. If one day, the emperor tells Zhang Yong, "You are my Wang Zhen," Zhang Yong would be totally finished. But the Zhang brothers are just overthinking. Things might not be as bad as they think. Pei Yuan's expression didn't change, but his eyes shifted slightly. Though Zhang Yong's status is high, he's just a servant in the emperor's eyes. With Pei Yuan's cold and detached nature, putting himself in the emperor's shoes, why would he go to such lengths for a servant? Zhang Yong only worries about being seen as Wang Zhen, but ignores that the emperor's hidden agenda might be aiming at something else. Pei Yuan had heard people say in the streets that the current emperor is young and bold, prides himself on martial prowess, and wants to copy Emperor Taizong to ride the grasslands and achieve great deeds. But for the emperor to go to war now, there is a huge obstacle in his way. That is the failed campaign of Emperor Yingzong, which caused the Tumu crisis. Yingzong's defeat and its tragic aftermath have become a hurdle for the current emperor to launch his military campaigns. Looking at the emperor's recent actions, he has clearly become keenly aware of this issue and has started preparing in advance. In Pei Yuan's mind, an unimaginable thought couldn't help but pop up. Could the emperor be looking for evidence to clear Emperor Yingzong's name? Seeing Chang Zhihu about to speak again, Chen Tutai beside them got a bit restless. Is this the kind of stuff I can listen to for free? To avoid any suspicion, Chen Tutai quickly, before Chang Zhihu spilled more secrets, coughed lightly and said, "Sir, should I go and keep watch outside?" Pei Yuan glanced at Chen Tutai and said without hesitation, "No need for that. I trust you." Chen Tutai was left completely speechless. He even started to doubt himself whether he actually had such integrity. Just saying if Zhang Yong could arrange a decent job for him, he was afraid he'd ditch this loser centurion without a second thought and go find another master. Thinking this, Chen Tutai stayed even more silent. Seeing Chen Taoti's conflicted look, Pei Yuan couldn't help but think to himself, using other people's secrets to show trust is really the best thing ever. It doesn't even cost any interest. Seeing Pei Yuan's interest in this, Chang Zhihu added, "I checked the files and found that Emperor Yingzong really couldn't let this go. After regaining freedom in the palace coup, he often sat alone in Wang Zhen's shrine. Until the day after Chao Qin's rebellion, Yingzong came and stood there for a long time, and then never came back again. Pei Yuan couldn't make any sense of it. Then he thought of all these complex connections. How could it be figured out in just a few words? Since it's none of his business, there's no need to care too much. Just then, the reception monk knocked softly on the door. Cheng Jihu hurried over to check. In a moment, Cheng Jihu, beaming with joy, came in holding 2 wrapped silver ingots. He truly treated Chen Tutai as Pei Yuan's right-hand man, ignoring his presence completely, and handed the 2 silver ingots wrapped in red paper straight to Pei Yuan's sleeve. He whispered, "One is for Commander Han's report, and the other is a token of my respect to you, sir." In a wing room of the Northern Administrative Court, that handsome Commander Han was casually flipping through a stack of papers. After reading one, he'd pass it to a centurion in his 40s beside him. That centurion, Yuan Lang, took it. Looking at the dense list of debts on it, he felt a bit of a headache. He stacked them casually and said to Commander Han, "For now, this is all the info I've gathered. Besides these detailed accounts, he also owes Gudeong 30,000 taels of silver." Commander Han, however, found that long list of accounts quite fascinating to read. He asked casually, "Did we miss anything?" "I just happened to find an account book in his house. Years of transactions are all on it." Commander Han took a pen from the desk, lined up a few pages in front of him, and ticked off a few dates in a row. He then looked at the creditors' names and chuckled. No wonder he boldly asked for a reward today. And no wonder he spent 30,000 taels just to get a position as soon as possible. That tightrope-like debt has reached the brink of collapse. Centurion Yuan seemed to be very contemptuous of Pei Yuan. He laughed and said the Jinui feared he'd embezzle too much. That's why they transferred him to the Eastern Depot. Turns out, he couldn't make it there either. Oh, right. There's also info about his military exam here. What really happened back then? There's a copy kept at Northern Patrol. Yuan Captain spoke up, signaling Han Captain to flip further. Han Captain quickly flipped through the accounts, then started reading about Pei Yuan's military exam. He nodded as he read. He made a quick remark. "The spies at Northern Patrol are sharp. They even recorded exactly who said what. And every single expression. It's so detailed, you feel like you were there." He smiled again later and said, "What a pity. With Eastern Depot Chief Gudeong, Rear Mansion Deputy Bai Yufu, Chang Bomo, and Wu Rui, all praising him, plus Vice Minister of War, Lu Wan. No matter how detailed this intel is, it's probably made up. No matter how sharp Zhang Rong is, he still has to accept it anyway." Yuan Captain heard Han Captain and asked, "Did this guy join the Jinui just to make money, and yet be so useless at his job? Should we try another way to catch this demon priest?" Han Captain just smiled. His androgynous face looked even more charming. He casually picked up his pen again, found the part describing Pei Yuan's exam. Then, Pei Yuan missed the mark with his arrow, but shot clean through a flagpole. Gudeong burst out laughing and made his comments in front of everyone, which Han marked with a line. He put pen to paper and circled the word, "break hard." He can break a flagpole with one shot from 80 steps away, but can't escape Mei Qinyang's gentle arms. Han Captain's smile faded. He looked at Yuan Lang calmly. Did Yuan Captain think the guy was just a womanizer? Or had other motives? Yuan Captain's face changed slightly. His eyes shifted, and he glanced at the neatly handled debts. Suddenly, he sensed something new. When 2 almost unrelated pieces of intel made sense together, Yuan Lang saw a whole new side of Pei Yuan, behind all that dull paperwork. He's got a sharp mind. He can make precise calculations and plans. Even though he hasn't had real warrior training, he's got crazy strength. Someone like him can still fail when he has the advantage. He got taken down by a wandering swordswoman. Then Yuan Baihu thought about the Plum Blossom Society thing. About the Plum Blossom Society, it seems like just a rebel group fighting the tax inspectors in southern Zhili. But Yuan Baihu knows better. Those events are just a glimpse under a dark curtain. Looking at this from a fresh angle, the guy Yuan Lang made fun of, Pei Yuan, seems different now. He's really alert to danger, and he can think on his feet. After making up his mind quickly, when Mei Qinyang got stubborn and said she wasn't going to waste her life, he spotted the opportunity right away. Even though he could shoot a flagpole from 80 paces, Pei Yuan still chose to hold back. He just left this messy place with a ridiculous, sorry ending. Yuan Lang was still lost in thought when Han Qianhu praised how he pulled it off and got away from the Eastern Depot unharmed. That's really something. Those rumors probably aren't just made up. With that, Han Qianhu paused, then told Yuan Lang, "You, write this down. If I ever try to take him down, and wild rumors about me pop up outside, just remind me. It's gotta be that guy messing with things." Yuan Lang was stunned to hear this, and got what Han Qianhu meant. "Sir, do you want to bring him into our Zhengxie Qian Heso?" Han Qianhu didn't answer. Just kept flipping through those pages. He said, "Let's wait and see." Yuan Lang thought for a moment, then loyally reminded him. This Pei Yuan is hard to figure out. And he's a 6th rank Baihu official. If he joins, he'd outrank almost everyone. Coming to Zhengxie Qian Heso might not be a good thing. But he's definitely outstanding. At the very least, if you put him in charge of the accounts, he'd be perfect for dealing with the staff at the Ministry of Revenue. Han Qianhu grunted in agreement and put the papers down. Just then, a white porcelain cup on the desk made a sound. It must be a report for Han Qianhu. Or maybe it's a tribute for Baihu, sir. Han Qianhu and Yuan Lang both looked at the cup. There's half a cup of water inside. A calm scene appeared on the surface. The image seemed to be pointed at the ceiling, perfectly still. There were a few blurry figures nearby. Some broken voices came from the side. Yuan Lang commented, "Cheng Jihu is a total bootlicker. He's always trying to cozy up to Qianhu. He moved things around for him. Never thought that guy would benefit from it." Han Qianhu remained indifferent. "Let's wait and see." Inside Jihua Temple, Pei Yuan had no idea that everything he did was being watched by this mysterious Qianhu. He looked at the 2 big silver ingots, facing his biggest temptation since joining the embroidered guard. Pei Yuan only joined for the money. He doesn't care about being noble, and he's not an upright guy. His life was a mess, so he needed a money-making path. That's why he borrowed a ton just to join the embroidered guard. Actually, if you go back further, even his family's hereditary military rank was bought with 600 dan of grain from the Jingtai emperor. Pei Yuan didn't force a bribe. It was all Cheng Jihu's idea to pay respect. Even if he took it, it'd still count as being a clean official in the Ming bureaucracy. Usually, Pei Yuan would happily take it, and he'd be even happier about it. 150 tael silver ingot is almost a year's wage for Pei Yuan. Plus, Han Qianhu letting him take the silver was meant as a reward. They probably won't follow up afterward. Besides, Han Qianhu's from Nanqing. Once he leaves this time, even if he comes back, he's not going to remember taking 6 taels of silver from a temple. He won't care at all. If Pei Yuan were a little greedy and kept both big ingots for himself, no one would notice anyway. 100 taels could fix tons of headaches and could really turn his tough life completely around. But something made Pei Yuan really uneasy. His whole mission this time was to pick up silver. Han Qianhu told him to get exactly 6 taels, so it had to be 6 taels. Even a bit more isn't 6 taels. If Han Qianhu just asked him to pass a message, Pei Yuan would take the 100 taels with no guilt. But this time, Han Qianhu told him to get silver. The embroidered guard is military. Pei Yuan still remembers what his dad warned him as a kid. Breaking military orders means the death penalty. His dad was a bad role model, and loved money too. But even so, he always stayed within the rules. He never disobeyed military orders. Pei Yuan finally made up his mind, and felt so regretful he could barely breathe. He looked at Cheng Jihu and said, word by word, "Han Qianhu sent me to get 6 taels of silver. 6 taels means 6 taels. Even a bit more isn't 6 taels." Cheng Jihu was a bit shocked. He never thought his gift wouldn't work. He forced a smile and hurried to explain, "Sir, don't misunderstand. It's just a little something from me. Han Qianhu helped me a lot back in the day, and now that I know Pei Baihu, I've got another connection." Pei Yuan sighed and didn't say more. He just said firmly, 6 taels means 6 taels. Cheng Jihu started to sweat. Sometimes, not being able to give gifts is even more trouble than not giving any at all. Right then, the monk outside coughed. Chang Jihu had an idea, and looked for a chance to leave. A little later, Chang Jihu came back in. He looked like he'd made a decision, put on an awkward smile, and opened his hand to show a broken piece of silver. My mistake, sir. Here's the 6 taels of pure silver you asked for. Pei Yuan nodded, took the broken silver, weighed it in his hand, figured it felt about right, and put it in his sleeve. Then Chang Jihu turned back and called out, bring it here. Outside, the monk hurried in with a brocade box. Chang Jihu opened the box. Inside was a celadon vase, half a foot tall. Chang Jihu explained with a smile. It's nothing valuable. Just something left by an old Taoist monk. It was last winter. I saw an old Taoist struggling. He was freezing in the alley outside. So I took pity on him. Brought him to Jihua Temple and had people care for him. After he came to, he told me. His time was almost up. But because I helped him, he lived half a day more. He was afraid it would mess with karma. So he gave me this celadon vase. Chang Jihu saw Pei Yuan checking out the vase. I quickly said I'd had someone check it out. This celadon vase isn't from any famous kiln. It's not really worth much. But it's got one good thing. It's a bit unusual. That old Taoist said there's a little ghost inside. If you light incense in front of it every night at midnight, that ghost will obey your orders. By morning, you'll find a coin inside the vase. I tried it once. Surprisingly, it worked. This thing may not be that useful, but it's pretty interesting. Pei Yuan just heard a little today from Han Qianhu about the demon warding guard station. He's more resistant to all this talk of demons and ghosts now. Chen Tutai turned pale with shock. He stared at the celadon vase, actually a bit scared. Pei Yuan thought, if I start working with Han Qianhu, who knows? I might have to deal with all sorts of creepy stuff. So getting experience like this isn't bad. Besides, even if a single coin isn't much, lighting incense on time is a hassle. But overall, it just seems normal. Still, even this little trick would let someone sell that vase for dozens of taels of silver. Pei Yuan smiled and accepted the brocade box right away. The white porcelain cup on the shore, even though it wasn't facing the group, every word they said was relayed through another white cup to Han Qianhu and Yuan Baihu's ears. Yuan Lang glanced at Han Qianhu and let out a quiet sigh of relief. Looks like this guy could be useful. How about putting him in charge of catching the demon this time? If he handles it smoothly, I wouldn't mind making him the 6th Baihu. Han Qianhu listened, while idly picking up the inkstone for a look. He said coolly, even if we want to use him, he might not agree, you know. This guy's been trying to figure us out from the start. Pei Yuan asked Chang Jihu about the inside story of Daoist Chenji. Then he started inquiring about things in the martial world. Chang Jihu said with some difficulty, I've been out of the game for a long time. Even my eldest son has already quit the Huashan sect. I'm trying to find him a proper job. My Jihua temple doesn't have any officials as patrons. Even if I act as a middleman for those martial artists, there's no benefit for us. If you want to know about things in Nanzili, why not go ask at Desheng Temple? They deal with Nanjing folks a lot. Pei Yuan pressed for more details, and learned that some temples may look peaceful on the surface, but secretly take money from people to get rid of disasters for others. Those martial folks break laws with violence, committing all sorts of crimes. Some well-off families can't take it, so they naturally fight back. They usually eat vegetarian and chant sutras, but the offerings to temples don't come for nothing. If a sponsor is in trouble, the temple must show their mystical power. Like that incident with the inspector's daughter, who was held all night bare naked, but wasn't actually harmed by the pervert Shirley Xiang. He had a bounty of 300 taels of silver posted in Shentang Hall at Daisayan Temple. Anyone in the know could tell who was behind it. It was Zhang Yanling, the Marquis of Jiancheng, just impeached. Everyone knew Zhang Yanling was arrogant and overbearing. After getting impeached and unable to fight back, he used dirty tricks to mess with the city inspector. But the inspector couldn't get any proof. Even if he did, Zhang Yanling's status protected him. Later, a wandering hero approached the city inspector and declared he'd go sleep with Zhang Yanling's daughter, just to help vent his anger. But the inspector was a scholar from a family of poets who didn't understand the dangers out there. He got swindled out of 500 taels of silver too. That made the inspector so mad he fell ill. And he skipped court for a while. Unable to take on Zhang Yanling, the inspector's family could only target Shi Xiang, the pervert. They took the official route to Dasayan Temple and vowed to return there and fulfill a vow if successful. They promised to pay respect at Dasayan Temple after it was done. 2 contracts laid before Buddha. Pei Yuan asked clearly, but felt a bit troubled. He wanted to go to Dasayan Temple to learn more about things in Nanzili. But Han Qianhu just gave him the porcelain cup so he could come to Zhihua Temple for the money. If he misused it, he might cause some trouble. Pei Yuan didn't want to bother 2 places for the same matter and kept questioning Cheng Zhihu. Is Daoist Shinji at Dasayan Temple? Do you know him well? Cheng Zhihu looked a bit awkward. Yun Weilin is from the Zhenxie Qianhu office and doesn't think highly of me. His son, Yun Buxian, is acquainted with my son. I could ask my son to take you over. But he went out earlier and hasn't returned yet. Pei Yuan paused at that, still unsure. Dasayan Temple is outside Xuanwu Gate in the West City. It takes quite a bit of time to get there. Pei Yuan had a lot to prepare for this trip. He still had a lot of things to get ready, like borrowing money. Even though he'd already overdrawn the system funds, the only thing really affected was forced loans. As for loans he managed to get himself, the system only tracks the amount and won't interfere otherwise. Pei Yuan got 6 taels from Cheng Zhihu and a piece of silver tossed by Sun Bo, which was about 7 or 8 taels. That money could only help him keep his ear to the ground, barely enough just to listen in. But if he used it to keep the debt payments moving, he could relax a bit for a while. Of course, the looming debt deadline was still stressful. This trip down south, he had to quickly find a way to get a few hundred taels. First, he had to get the debt ceiling down. They say Dasayan Temple has been around for 1,000 years. It was renovated big time during Qinghua's reign too. That year, something really bizarre happened. Wang Zhumaibi from Ningyi suddenly reported to the emperor. Something went wrong. So, what happened? Turns out, a monster appeared in Prince Hejin's residence. The monster often possessed statues and nobles, demanding wine and meat from people. Otherwise, it threatened to burn down the palace. This went on for 2 years. One night, when the palace guards got lax, the monster really burned everything down. During Emperor Shenzong's reign, Ningyi Prince's palace caught fire. Ever since the 17th year of Chenghua, a monster appeared at the prince's palace, sometimes acting as a statue at night, sometimes as a noble. When it wanted wine and meat, it threatened to burn the palace. On the night of December 18, year 18, not a single uniform was left in the tomb grounds, the whole block was blown clean. This sudden supernatural case triggered a strong memory for Emperor Shenzong. Back a few years before, even in the capital, a monster showed up. On the 7th month, Dingshu Day, year 12, in the Black Province of the capital, a creature was spotted where men and women slept outside. It had sparkling powers, looked like a dog plow, with a belly full of black mist, and went straight for the inner rooms. People went unconscious because of it, causing panic. They tried arming up and lighting lanterns, but warnings with bells and drums didn't help. According to the 5 Elements section of the Ming history, Black Province merchants reported this. It was well known in the annals of Emperor Shenzong. Ming history was edited and polished for nearly 100 years under the Qing, so its reliability is debatable. But this case had solid supporting evidence. The person was Yin Ji, who served as Grand Academician and Minister of War during Shenzong's reign. To become a Grand Academician, at least meant he was one of the smartest people in the country. And to become Minister of War meant joining the very core circle of the empire. So he was both smart and skilled. And this very sharp and clever person recorded this in detail in his Notes of Jianzhai. He started off by writing, "I didn't believe it at first either. But later, I just couldn't deny it. Famous people from all over often spent the night outside. Suddenly, a dark creature would come like a cloud. Sometimes it came in through the door. Even tightly shut rooms weren't safe. Hands, feet, faces, or backs and bellies could be injured. Yellow liquid oozed out of the wounds, but didn't spread. Every city had victims. Historians stayed in those cities too. The city cavalry patrolled. Local inspectors believed there was something supernatural, so they reported it. If one source isn't enough, Besides Pangjing there was another Pangjing. And this Pangjing even described a well-known incident. Wang Ao wrote in Zensa Long Talk that it moved as fast as the wind. Never settled. Sometimes it attacked faces. Sometimes hands or feet. It struck dozens of times in a night. Sometimes in the East City, then in the West, then South or North. People were shocked everywhere. One day, at Feng Tianmen when the emperor and guards were present, the monster showed up unexpectedly, startling both the civil and military officials. With a lot of commotion, the emperor got up to avoid it. Huaiyan kept it hidden, and managed to calm things down. This part describes something important. The monster even showed up during Emperor Xianzong's grand audience at Feng Tianmen, all of a sudden, with the palace guards and ministers all as witnesses. Emperor Xianzong wanted to get up and run. It was the Grand Eunuch Huaiyan from the Directorate of Ceremonial who restrained him. That's how things calmed down. So, is Wang Ao a trustworthy guy or not? Well, that depends on his background. Back in the 4th year of Jingde, he was the Minister of Revenue. He was also the Crown Prince's teacher and imperial scholar at Wuying Hall. Along with Li Dongyang and Jiaofeng, he was part of the empire's powerful trio in the cabinet. This famous scene Wang Ao mentioned in his book feels strangely familiar, doesn't it? Let's compare it to this ever-changing bit. The uproar in heaven, the thunder summoned gods nobody could catch. The gods all gathered the great sage together, but couldn't get close. It was noisy and chaotic. The Jade Emperor was quickly disturbed. So he sent an order, having Yiling official Tong Si and Xingzhen Lord go west to invite the Buddha to subdue him. This is the famous heavenly palace uproar scene from Ming Era Journey to the West. The famous chaos in heaven. Some people might wonder, isn't this nonsense? Scholars like to be subtle, but shouldn't force connections, right? Sure, there are some similarities up front. But the Jade Emperor went west to invite the Buddha to deal with it, which isn't reflected here. That brings us to what Emperor Xianzong did afterward. What a coincidence. The person handling the issue was the fiercest eunuch in the Chenghua era, Wang Zhi, the chief of the Western Depot. After it happened, not long passed. When Emperor Xianzong saw the secret message from Prince Ningyi, Zhu Meibi, he remembered being attacked by the monkey, and frightened by He Sheng. Panicked, Emperor Xianzong could only seek strength from faith. So he called in the king of the secret sect. With high hopes, he asked, "Holy monk, those bedroom arts you taught me, are they part of Buddhist practice too?" The king of Dharma smiled, of course. So the emperor felt reassured. He ordered the supreme commander and crown prince's guardian, Xiangqing Marquis Li Jing, to lead 10,000 troops to rebuild the Dasiyan temple. Dasiyan temple became even more prominent because of it. Even within Dasiyan temple, Daoist Jin Weilin's rank was higher than Cheng Jihu's. He held the general's flag. Pei Yuan was only borrowing authority from Han Qianhu to act tough. He could pick on a low-ranking flag officer pretty easily. But at somewhere like Dasiyan temple, he might not fool anyone. He wanted Cheng Jihu's son to go scout ahead first. Thinking it over, he said, "All right then. Tomorrow morning, have your son wait for me at the gate of Dasin Temple. Han Qianhu and I are meeting at noon tomorrow at the town commander's office. So don't waste any time." Cheng Jihu took the hint and offered, "Rest assured, my lord. I'll have my son put in a good word there. After you finish your questions, a carriage will take you straight to Zemfusi." Pei Yuan chuckled. He stood up to take his leave. Pei Yuan held the brocade box with the celadon vase in both hands, thinking that buying incense would also cost money. With the simple idea of saving wherever possible, he asked casually, "By the way, any rules for burning incense here?" Confused, Cheng Jihu said casually, "No special rules. Just offer the usual incense." The escorting guest monk quickly interjected, "You don't need to trouble yourself, donor. How could our temple lack such things? The agarwood, candles, and yellow paper bestowed by the emperor yesterday, we still have some left. I'll have someone prepare them right away." Hearing it was a royal gift, Pei Yuan thought, for this mystical stuff, using the good stuff couldn't hurt. Agarwood, candles, and yellow paper from the emperor. This is top tier. It wouldn't be shabby even for offering to heaven. He smiled at the monk, "You're quite wise. I'll leave it to you." Hearing those extra words, the monk couldn't help but groan inwardly. He had to bite the bullet and say, "After I report to the abbot, I'll bring them all for you. Seeing the monk's response, though unaware of the hidden sarcasm, Chang Jihu felt quite proud. He gave him a satisfied look. Escorted by Chang Jihu, Pei Yuan left Jihua Temple. Seeing they were far enough away, he thoughtfully asked Chen Tutai, carrying bags of yellow paper and incense, "These monks in Jihua Temple, they give Chang Jihu whatever he asks for. What's the real reason?" Chen Tutai instinctively replied, "Could it be that he has some dirt on this temple?" Pei Yuan shook his head, "It shouldn't be a secret. Otherwise, Chang Jihu wouldn't be so blatant." It was their first time working together, and they had no clues about Taoist Chenji. Pei Yuan didn't dare say too much to Chen Tutai either. But seeing how Chang Jihu made money so quickly, Pei Yuan felt quite envious. He even thought about putting on a good show to stay and work under Commander Han. Pei Yuan's home was in Dangshiku Alley. It was a cramped courtyard with 2 sections. This was left to him by his ancestor, who was successful in business but failed in politics. When Pei Yuan was struggling the most financially, there was once an out-of-town merchant who offered a high price for this old house. However, Pei Yuan strictly refused, saying he wouldn't sell family property, fearing the label of being an unfilial son. Sometimes the prices offered were so good that when Pei Yuan woke up in the dead of night, he would sigh heavily about it. If he hadn't forged the house deed and mortgaged it in multiple places, he might have given in and sold it. Unfortunately, even if he could sell it for a good price, once the truth came out, it couldn't save his debt from a chain collapse. When the house was mortgaged, the guarantor was Chang'an, the record keeper of Daxing County. Pei Yuan mortgaged this house 5 times for 60 taels each. Chang'an didn't even blink. He signed as a witness and guarantor. In Chang'an's words, he watched Pei Yuan grow up. This kid was a talent. Helping him out now would surely bring a big payoff later. If he really struck it rich, as long as Pei Yuan married his only daughter, he'd be happy even if he lost some money. Pei Yuan was also grateful to Uncle Chang next door. After Pei Yuan inherited his post, the first thing he did was go to record keeper Chang's home to share the joy. But when Chang heard that Pei Yuan also borrowed from Gu Deong, director of the Western Depot, 30,000 taels of silver, he not only sent his pretty daughter, coyly pouring wine, back to her room, but also moved back to the countryside the very next day. Pei Yuan and Chen Tutai walked one after another, passing by record keeper Chang's old home. They couldn't help but sigh a bit. When they reached his door, Pei Yuan reached out and took the agarwood, candles, and yellow paper from Chen Tutai. He told him, "If by tomorrow, Zenfusi hasn't assigned you any tasks, come find me at Dasian Temple. After I see Commander Han, I'll see if I can get you transferred to help me." Fired up by Pei Yuan's pep talk, Chen Tutai left full of hope. Pei Yuan watched his back and sighed softly. He turned and went home. Putting down the celadon vase and candles, Pei Yuan hurried out to borrow money. He had good luck this time. Many moneylenders, hearing that Pei Yuan had inherited his post, were very friendly to the son taking his father's place. Of course, some knew Pei Yuan's real situation. Luckily, they just watched coldly and didn't take the bait, nor did they offend him. After asking around, he got 15 taels. Pei Yuan used some to pay off loans that were almost due. He also asked his well-backed creditors if there were ways to make money in South Zhili. This thrilled the creditors who now saw hope. They all pitched in to help, racking their brains. They even revealed some dirty secrets of their peers. For a moment, Pei Yuan wished they could always be his creditors. Because only they truly wanted what was best for him, hoping he could make big bucks. By the time Pei Yuan had everything sorted and organized the intel he gathered, it was already getting dark. He went home and cooked a bowl of noodles, without lighting a lamp. Pei Yuan's small courtyard was where his failed ancestor used to rest during business trips. The location was great. Just a short walk away was a bustling area. To put it bluntly, the famous brothel alley was just east of Dangshiku. According to the book Wazazu, Yanyun has 4 things in abundance: eunuchs outnumber the gentry, women outnumbering men, prostitutes outnumbering decent women, and beggars outnumbering merchants. As for the worldly dust of the streets, the chaos of the neighborhoods, the mixing of thieves and crooks, and the roaming of thugs, They sum up all the ugly customs and bad folks in the world. And the capital has them all. These chaotic people, and chaotic matters, are beneath the glamorous surface of the Ming Empire. The most authentic street life. Those unspoken rules, yet truly existing in everyone's minds, are what the scoundrels call the Jianghu. Since he was very young, Pei Yuan lived in such a mixed place, as tough as a fish transforming into a dragon. In record keeper Chang's words, do well. Whether you're a fish or a dragon, just wait for your time to leap. Unfortunately, record keeper Chang had his daughter ready, but lacked the courage to wait for Pei Yuan's leap. Pei Yuan's small courtyard was very close to the Jiafangxi where Guanji was held. Pei Yuan lay in his courtyard chair with eyes closed, listening to free tunes from the Jiafangxi, while calculating his accounts over the years. Half asleep, he heard the night watchman's bell outside, approaching midnight. Pei Yuan suddenly opened his eyes. He felt a sense of urgency. Time waits for no one. If he missed this coin at this hour, he'd have to wait till the next hour for another. Pei Yuan quickly took out the celadon vase and placed it under the big locust tree in the yard. He kept an eye on the time and lit the incense candle. Pei Yuan glanced at the stack of finely made yellow paper in his hand. It didn't really seem useful to keep. So he just lit a few sheets on the candle and let them burn. That was his offering for the little spirit. After the yellow paper burned out, the incense in front of the celadon vase seemed even brighter. But Pei Yuan couldn't see any other strange signs. He waited, nervous. He waited for about an hour. Just as the incense was about to burn out, he heard a crisp ding coming from the vase. It sounded like a coin had dropped inside. Pei Yuan was overjoyed. He immediately wanted to take a look. But he wasn't sure if there were any taboos around this. And at the time, he hadn't asked Cheng Jihu about the details. So he could only hold himself back. After a while, the incense finished burning. Grayish-white smoke curled and drifted around, and finally faded away. Pei Yuan sighed in relief. He was about to put out the candle. But before he could move, the two candles that were still burning suddenly went out on their own right in front of him. Seeing this, Pei Yuan wasn't afraid at all. He actually felt touched and pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect this little spirit to be so considerate. Now he felt much closer to it. So Pei Yuan didn't hold back anymore. He quickly grabbed the celadon vase, removed the wooden cork and tipped it over, and a greenish old coin fell into his palm. Pei Yuan saw the coin was in poor condition, and felt a bit let down. But then he noticed something different. Because the Ming notes weren't trustworthy, the court often minted more coins, to ease the shortage of circulating currency. In the early Ming, there were Hongwu coins. In the 9th year of Emperor Yongle, Yongle coins were minted. In the 9th year of Emperor Xuande, Xuande coins came out. After the 16th year of Hongji, Hongji coins were issued. These copper coins are all made to a standard. Pei Yuan knows them by heart. But the one in his hand is totally different. Though it's also round with a square hole, it's not a Dazhong Tongbao coin. Not a Hongwu, Yongle, or Xuande Tongbao. Or a Hongji Tongbao, for that matter. Instead, on both sides of the hole, there are some strange-looking characters. Pei Yuan holds it up under the moonlight. He sees the coin has a faint patina, but it's finely crafted. It's nothing like a poorly made counterfeit. He can't help but feel puzzled. Judging by the style, could it be from a previous dynasty? Can you even spend this thing? On the way to Daisayan Temple the next day, Pei Yuan is still playing with that coin. After rubbing it all night, the patina looks much duller. Honestly, it looks even prettier than the coins from the Hongwu or Yongle years. Pei Yuan left early, so by the time he arrived at Daisayan Temple, the sun had just risen. Daisayan Temple is always packed with worshippers, which keeps the neighborhood busy, too. Lots of officials' families come here to pray. Plus the temple has many guardian monks, so troublemakers almost never show up. That makes regular folks like to visit, too. Pei Yuan, dressed in his Jinui uniform, hand resting on his Shochuan sword, walks into a little restaurant on the street. He waits there for Chen Tutai and Cheng Jihu's son to find him. Pei Yuan claims a table by himself. He sets his sword down by his side. The waiter doesn't dare be careless. It's a Jinui officer, after all. The guy quickly rushes over, all smiles and bows. Pei Yuan casually orders a few dishes. He doesn't dare pick anything too pricey. Since, as long as he isn't too outrageous, the shop usually won't bother asking him to pay. His father, Pei Guang, taught him that little secret. Pei Yuan always decided as a kid to live by his own rules. So of course he'd remember every lesson his dad ever taught. Today is also the day for tomb repairs. So lots of officials bring their families along to offer incense at Daesayan Temple. This street-side restaurant is also busier than usual with folks from all over. Especially a bunch of aspiring scholars. It's the 6th year of Jingde, and the spring imperial exams just ended. A new top scholar made the honor roll. The son of Yang Tingyi, Grand Secretary at Jinshan Hall. Yang Shen. Technically, having a Grand Secretary's son ace the exam should spark a ton of criticism. But this year is not a normal year. Because Yang Shen is really something else. At age 11, Yang wrote lines like, "A soul broken at a brothel, and bones shining in bright moss by day." When word of his talent spread, other scholars gave up right away. Not me, not my league. Can't even compete. This whole exam batch was kind of a mess. Many rich scholars chose to stay in the capital, wanting to wait things out a bit. Some for academic exchange, hoping to improve. Others to make friends, since, whether for fame as a scholar, or serving as an official, connections help a lot. These folks, with nothing else to do, heard about the tomb repair at Daesayan Temple, and the official ladies making offerings every day, so they all decided to come check it out. Pei Yuan gets annoyed seeing all these scholars in the restaurant. Honestly, it just bugs him. Of all educated people, Pei Yuan hates scholars the most. Because if they pass the final exam and become officials, they learn to fear the Jinui. If they're just junior scholars, they aren't brave enough to mess with Pei Yuan. But these middle-rank scholars think way too highly of themselves. Super easy to set off. And Pei Yuan can't really do much. Like the middle-aged scholar who just arrived late at the door. Honestly, he could just go to another restaurant. But seeing only Pei Yuan with an empty seat among the packed tables, sitting alone with his sword out, under the amused stares and hushed whispers of the other scholars, with an expression somewhere between monster slayer and hero, he marches over and asks to share the table. To be fair, Pei Yuan isn't an intolerant guy. It's just that. First, how is he supposed to mooch a meal? Right in front of another scholar? The scholar sees Pei Yuan looking grumpy but saying nothing. So he gets bolder. It's like all the scholars from the 2 capitals and 13 provinces are backing him up. He confidently orders food in front of the Jinui. Orders tea. Pei Yuan quietly eats his meal, ignoring him. When nothing stirs up over here, the scholars in the shop go back to their own conversations, forgetting about this corner. Pei Yuan remembers he still has to pay the bill later, which only makes him more annoyed. The longer he thinks about it, the madder he gets. He glances at the scholar for a moment, thinking knowledge is valuable, too. So, not wanting to lose out, he pulls out the coin from his sleeve, puts on a smile, and says politely, "I've heard that everyone who comes to the capital for exams must be really talented. This coin has 2 characters on it. Could I ask you to take a look?" The scholar is taken aback at first, then thinks even the Jinui is humbling himself to ask me something, and he feels a bit of pride. He glances around, realizing nobody is paying attention here, and is a little disappointed, but casually takes the coin. He gives it a quick glance, and says with a light laugh, "If you had asked me about some other topic, I'd be impressed. But if this is about," right as he's talking, he suddenly goes quiet. He grips the coin tightly. His eyes shift nervously. Then he quickly opens his hand again, and stares hard at the coin. This middle-aged scholar is a little chubby, but has a fair look. But in that moment, he looks downright shifty. Pei Yuan notices, but keeps his cool. The middle-aged scholar can't put the coin down, playing with it a bit more, then regretfully shakes his head. He puts the coin on the table, and slowly slides it back. Pei Yuan doesn't rush to take it, but looks at him curiously. Judging from how he acted just now, he obviously got a little greedy at first, but who knows what he'll say now. What he'll say. The scholar's face tenses up. And he cautiously says, these two characters mean Shuzhu. Pei Yuan asks, is there something special about this coin? Then springs his real question, is it valuable? Valuable? The scholar smiles. About to joke. Then remembers Pei Yuan's just a rough soldier. And quickly shakes his head, it's worth a penny, an ounce, or even 100 ounces of silver. Sometimes hundreds of taels still aren't as useful as this coin. Pei Yuan is both happy and surprised. And quickly takes a closer look at the coin. Just then, he realizes he hasn't even gotten the scholar's name. So he asks excitedly, may I ask your name, sir? Your honored name? Your honored name? The once proud scholar suddenly wilts. His enthusiasm fading. He quietly says, it's Yang Yongxiu. Who dares to give their full name? Failed the Yongjia exam. It's me, examinee Zhang Tsong. Pei Yuan has no interest in his feelings. With this subscription money in his hands, it's just a single copper coin. But this guy in front of him somehow has the power to turn that coin into something magical. So this annoying middle-aged scholar suddenly looked quite charming in Pei Yuan's eyes. Pei Yuan quickly gave him a friendly compliment with a smile. Sir, you have the talent of a crouching dragon. Even if luck's bad right now, you'll still have a chance to rule the world someday. When Zhang Tsong heard this, he felt stabbed in the heart 100 times. He couldn't help but snap, shut up. Pei Yuan was stunned. He felt annoyed, what's with this guy? He didn't realize. He just hit Zhang Tsong's sore spot. Zhang Tsong was a child prodigy. He was very talented even as a kid. At 13, he wrote a poem calling himself a crouching dragon. He's always been a man of integrity. Waving a white feather fan, glowing as bright as snow. When he moved, there was a refreshing breeze. And when still, he hung like a bright moon. Breeze and moonlight, all between movement and stillness. How could he let the world suffer under the heat? Zhang Tsong used to tell this story with pride. But after reaching the capital, he met Yang Shen, who at age 11 could write about courtesans' hearts and bones shining in green moss in daylight. Back then, Zhang Tsong just had one humble thought among all those other students. I'm not good enough, I'm really not. I can't compare, it's hopeless. Right now, Zhang Tsong felt his teeth itch with frustration. These Jinhui scoundrels really are spies, huh? That jab hurt a lot. Pei Yuan saw Zhang Tsong embarrassed and angry. He forced down his confusion and asked, Sir, no need to be upset. Zhang Tsong's face was dark. After a moment, he said, we barely know each other. Let's just talk money. Back to talking about money. The mood suddenly got a lot friendlier. This Shuzhu coin is a true rarity. I remember in Nansong Hongdao's complete records, this coin was mentioned. But since the Song dynasty, it's hardly been seen. It's like famed swords and prized horses. The price of this coin is about more than just its material value. It's about its fame as well. As Zhang Tsong spoke, he couldn't help but ask Pei Yuan to see it again. After looking at it for a bit, he said if this was all there was to it, it'd just be extra expensive. At the end of the day, you could still set a price. But there's something special about this coin. Because it's a Yansheng coin. Pei Yuan was totally lost. Yansheng coin? Zhang Tsong explained a little. Yansheng coins were made by the ancients to ward off evil and pray for good fortune. Some ancient coins with real history, after many years, were seen as good luck charms. Look at this coin. The right says Su. The left says Zhu, made by ancient people, as a token for longevity. As Zhang Tsong spoke, he handed the coin back to Pei Yuan. Something this valuable, if you find the right buyer, you could sell it for dozens or even 100 taels of silver. Shouldn't be a problem. Pei Yuan was overjoyed inside. Knowing these stories, Pei Yuan felt like everything suddenly made sense. He instantly came up with several ideas for selling this coin at a high price. Zhang Tsong noticed how excited Pei Yuan looked, and joked, you're not actually thinking about just taking this to sell, are you? Pei Yuan froze. Why not? Zhang Tsong shot him a look of disdain, teasing, the real value isn't in selling it, but in giving it away. Giving it away? Pei Yuan was surprised. Zhang Tsong was on a roll, eager to show off his knowledge, and bragged, let me teach you. Shuzhu is a famous name, but almost no real coins survive. Now, Grand Secretary Li Dongyang is old. And not in good health. If you give him this coin as a gift, he'll be over the moon when he gets it. And treat you as a guest of honor. A little glory like that is way better than 100 taels of silver. Don't you think? After Zhang Song finished, he couldn't help but feel a bit smarter. If you gift it to Li Dongyang, this famous life-extending Yanxing coin, which is always seen as a good luck charm, it's pretty much like offering an auspicious gift to the emperor. Pei Yuan realized, too, just how valuable being a favored guest for Li Dongyang was. He couldn't believe it as he held the coin. Is it really that magical? Zhang Song just smiled. Who knows? Maybe the old man will get inspired, bond with the coin, and live an extra year or so. Pei Yuan held the coin in his hand, thinking of home, and the green glazed jar with half a pound of ghosts in it. He swallowed nervously. He looked at Zhang Song again. This guy he used to find so annoying, then kind of handsome, now seemed absolutely stunning. Zhang Song was truly knowledgeable, and quick-witted too. He's like a treasure of a scholar. I've got that green glazed jar, and it gives me a coin a day. Pei Yuan used to just think it was interesting. Never really took the coin seriously. But not all coins are the same. Who knows, there might be lots more worth dozens. Or even 100 taels. And I can get a new coin every day. That's something else. In Pei Yuan's mind, a math formula popped up. Green glazed jar plus charisma, plus Zhang Song equals a money tree. Pei Yuan's attitude toward Zhang Song instantly got warmer. He couldn't help but scoot closer, ending up a bit nearer to Zhang Song. Then he looked at him warmly and said, "My friend?" Zhang Song got chills from how Pei Yuan called him. What do you want? Pei Yuan slapped the table, full of excitement, and said, "After hearing your advice, I feel like I've learned more than studying for 10 years. Dinner's on me." Zhang Song glanced at the table, steamed buns, tea, tofu, and casually said, "That's not necessary. Getting involved with Jinui, just for a meal, isn't worth the trouble." Who'd have thought this Jinui guy was even more generous than he expected? He just pushed the coin right over. Zhang Song was stunned. Pei Yuan said, "Your wisdom is worth more than a few hundred taels of silver. I'm giving you this coin." Zhang Song couldn't believe it, staring at Pei Yuan, and blurted out, "Seriously?" Then, as if worried Pei Yuan would regret it, he reminded him, "This is more than just a coin. It can get you in good with Grand Secretary Li Dongyang." Pei Yuan smiled, and said honestly, "Not all coins are the same, and neither are people. You're a scholar. I'm with the Jinui. You can get much more out of it, in front of the Grand Secretary than I ever could." Zhang Song was moved, and finally took a serious look at Pei Yuan. Turns out this Jinui's pretty sharp too. Guys like Jinui, with their bad reputation, can't even get in the door with Li Dongyang. Heck, the Grand Secretary might see the coin. And his first thought might be, "I wonder where the Jinui swiped this from?" Li Dongyang would just get suspicious, maybe even be annoyed with you. That could backfire, and make the Grand Secretary dislike your gift. Only a proper, well-bred scholar like Zhang Song could create a story out of giving this as a gift. That's what makes it memorable. Zhang Song was genuinely tempted now. He looked at the coin for ages, rubbing it with his fingers, before finally accepting it. "You really get it. But I'm just a student who studies the classics. Never done anything shady. I probably can't do much to help you." Pei Yuan quickly smiled to reassure him. "I just come from a poor family, but I've always admired scholars. If I get to learn from you sometimes, that's enough." "Is that so?" Zhang Song hesitated. At this point, Pei Yuan's debt settlement system suddenly popped up. "There's a new entry, receivable debt 1/1. Zhang Song owes you a favor. He promised you can ask for his advice anytime. You can even force him to help once, but that'll void the promise." Pei Yuan saw that line, and was shocked. So this is the real Zhang Song. Just like Pei Yuan said, not all people are the same, not all coins are the same, even Zhang Songs are different. If this is how his name is written, and he's from Yongjia Citrus Country, then he must be the guy who ousted Yang Tingyi, and became the chief minister. This guy is going to be the emperor's top confidant in the future. When Emperor Jiajing first took the throne, The civil officials and the cabinet planned to unite and weaken his power. The young Emperor Jiajing quickly sensed something was up. He immediately kicked off the great rights controversy. At the core of this dispute, it was really just about one thing. That was the legitimacy of Jiajing becoming emperor. Did it come from being the grandson of Emperor Xianzong? Or was it because the ministers chose him as the adopted son of Emperor Xiaozong? Those two paths meant very different things. If it's the first option, then the Xiaozong line is actually extinct. So by law, they need to look up one generation and find Zhu Hozong, the direct grandson of Xianzong, to inherit the throne. That makes perfect sense. It's legit and proper. But if it's the second option, that means everything starts from the Xiaozong line. The Ming royal main branch is gone. All the Zhu family bloodlines are equally eligible. The ministers made you Xiaozong's adopted son. That's them giving you respect. Don't act like you don't appreciate it. If we can pick you as the adopted son, we can also choose someone else for Xiaozong. At just 14 years old, Zhu Hozong managed, in the messy situation, to spot the hidden danger here, and even strike back in a very short window. You just have to call him a genius. But this teenage boy was up against a whole group of powerful civil officials. He was definitely outmatched. Even though Zhu Hozong caught them off guard at first, once the officials regrouped, they were bound to fight back. But in that same year, a major turning point showed up. That was Zhang Song, who had been struggling for years, finally passed the imperial exam. Then this treasure of an official stepped onto the stage. Zhang Song quoted classics, debated with many scholars, and gathered his own supporters. He stood toe-to-toe with the old Hongzhi officials. Zhu Hozong took the chance to secure his rule, and completely cleared up his legitimacy. There were two big losers in this power struggle. One was the huge old civil official group. The other was Ming Taizong Zhu Di. Yes, the little grandson. His son's little grandson cleaned up the legal claims, but ended up putting Zhu Di in the crossfire. Zhu Di seized power via a coup. He hated people saying he wasn't legit. After his death, he was called Taizong. He wanted to be on par with Li Shimin, and also proved to everyone he was a good son to his father, and took over from his dad fair and square. But Zhu Hozong was a prince's son who took over unexpectedly. Somehow, he came up with a seriously wrong idea. He changed Zhu Di's title from Ming Taizong to Ming Qingzu. What he meant was, Zhu Yuanzhang's main line was Zhu Biao and Zhu Yunwen. Look, after Zhu Yunwen died, didn't Zhu Di go from a minor branch to the head family? So, Huang Ming lost credibility from the very beginning. We're all in the same boat here. Now, even many neutral officials were just stunned. Damn, you're dragging your ancestors into this mess. As for the winner in that political chaos, it was definitely just Zhang Song. Zhang Song became the pillar of strength, carrying everything on his own. To Emperor Jiajing, he was like Xiao Zilong. This guy rose to the top in just a few years. He became the grand scholar and chief of the cabinet, and the emperor always trusted him, even until his death. After he died, he was even honored as grand tutor. As for his upbringing, it's like a dragon slayer who finally became the dragon. In the end, he turned into what he fought against. According to the Ming historical records, he was described as very firm and decisive, never shied away from criticism. He kept himself exceptionally clean. He hated corrupt officials. He wanted to wipe out private cliques among ministers, but he ended up leading such a clique himself. Pei Yuan stared at Zhang Song with anticipation. An evil dragon is great. That's exactly who I want to stick with. Way better than currying favor with Li Dongyang, who's almost dead anyway. Much more profitable. If Pei Yuan didn't firmly hold on to his last bit of integrity, there might have even been a line about drifting through life. He wasn't sure if he should say it. Pei Yuan looked at this treasure of a chief minister, and couldn't help but grin widely for a moment. The middle-aged fat guy just stared blankly, watching the overly enthusiastic, scheming genie guard. He involuntarily tensed up. Had no clue what the other guy was plotting. Zhang Song glanced at the copper coins in his hand, found them suddenly less appealing. He wanted to give up, but couldn't bring himself to let go. Zhang Song had been knocked down many times, repeatedly disappointing his family. He was really struggling at this point. If he could use these as gifts, to get in with Grand Scholar Li Dongyang, maybe things could turn around. Zhang Song looked at Pei Yuan, carefully suggested. How about we wrap it up for today? Pei Yuan replied openly, feel free, brother. Pei Yuan didn't even ask for follow-up contact. With Zhang Song's talent, he'd surely be among the elite. Pei Yuan would definitely see him at the top. Plus, with Suzhu's previous help, Zhang Song might move ahead even faster. Zhang Song was surprised by Pei Yuan's straightforwardness. That was unexpected. He couldn't figure out why this genie guard agent gave him such valuable stuff. What exactly was he after? It didn't make sense. He was just a failed exam candidate, with no powerful background. Could it really be that he admired Zhang Song's talent? Or liked him as a person? The middle-aged fat guy was feeling fuzzy. Pei Yuan watched Zhang Song leave, completely spaced out, feeling like his own life had become more stable. Was that the feeling of finding someone powerful to rely on? After a short while, Zhang Song came back. Pei Yuan asked in surprise, brother, is there anything else? Zhang Song replied a bit awkwardly. I got benefits from you, but haven't asked for your name yet. Pei Yuan was thrilled. The Treasury Chief Minister actually asked for my name. What does that mean? It means our relationship has taken a step forward. Pei Yuan quickly said, I'm Pei Yuan, your junior, currently serving as a 100 house officer in the Genie Guard. If you ever need my help, just ask. He then patted his chest and added, I've got connections with Commander Zhang Rong of Genie Guard, Factory Chief Qiu Ju from the Eastern Factory, and Chief Gu Daong from the Western Factory. I can speak to all of them. Zhang Song was shocked. What is this? An elite circle missing just one? Zhang Song hurriedly excused himself. As he left the shop, he secretly glanced back at Pei Yuan, who was still looking eagerly at him, watching his back. The middle-aged fat guy felt heavy-hearted. He couldn't stay in the capital anymore. After meeting Li Dongyang, he'd better rush home to Yongjia. Pei Yuan saw Zhang Song off, and his appetite improved a lot. After a while, Chen Toutai brought a young man around 24 or 25 years old. This young man looked a bit like Cheng Jihu, very sturdy build. His smile was a mix of awkwardness and worldliness. Spotting Pei Yuan from afar, he cupped his hands and bowed as he approached, then quietly said, Chang Leixiang greets Officer Pei. Pei Yuan saw this, felt very satisfied. Where are we? We're at the entrance of De Xian Temple. Countless nobles and heirs pass by here every day, and high officials' families. As a small 100 house officer, even getting a free meal here takes some work. What can you do? This Chang Leixiang looks young and rebellious, a bit rough around the edges, but knows how things work much better than his dad. Pei Yuan smiled and had him take a seat, and asked, Have you contacted your friend Yun Buhan yet? Chang Leixiang looked a bit embarrassed. Yun Weilin is kind of grumpy. He says he ignores everyone except Officer Han. He won't deal with any other 100 house officers. My buddy tried to help, but it didn't work. Pei Yuan fell silent. He was pretty nervous inside. Playing up connections is always risky, especially when old-timers dare to speak up. If they keep digging, they might expose all his previous schemes. But with Chang Leixiang around, Pei Yuan couldn't back down. He pretended to think, then came up with an excuse. What he meant was, is the 100 house officer not Han? Does he even ignore the emperor's orders? Chang Leixiang scratched his head, pretended not to hear. Pei Yuan just found himself an out. Looking for someone like that only causes problems for officers. Let's just go straight to the town magistrate office. Chang Leixiang replied, I've got the ride ready. Pei Yuan saw that Chang Leixiang was pretty experienced, but realized the southern direct administration was tough. He'd need more help. So he decided to rope this guy in. Then remembered Cheng Jihu. If you want an honest job for your son, he asked, did your dad arrange an official position for you? Chang Leixiang quickly replied, a few years ago, Dad bought me a city 100 house officer title. But I don't have connections, so I have nowhere to go. Pei Yuan was speechless. The Ming dynasty is selling official titles like crazy. How are they selling jobs everywhere? Chang Leixiang saw Pei Yuan was silent, then carefully said, I know how to follow the rules. If you give me a future, I'm willing to start from the bottom. Pei Yuan was even more speechless. He was only temporarily assigned here by Officer Han. Who has the right to assign someone 10 laps? Speaking of which, all I could do was brush it off with a couple of hms. Chang Weixiang got even more eager seeing this. And in a blink, he sold out his buddy Yun Buxian. Honestly, there's a reason why Yun Weilin doesn't dare meet the boss. Pei Yuan didn't expect this extra bonus. He stood up and asked curiously, "How so?" Chang Lei was interested in Pei Yuan meeting. He was getting fired up. Daesayan Temple has money, you know. Yun Weilin has worked there for years. He's made a fortune long ago. But the guy has no brains. He bought his son Yun Buxian a deputy post as a wealthy official. Getting him a rich deputy post is one thing. But he wants Yun Buxian to take over one day. To stay at Daesayan Temple as his fat dog. But just think about it, sir. The biggest fish in our 1,000 household office is Han Qianhu. Below him, there are 500 households. Each one's a true hero. Yun Weilin buys his kid a deputy post. That's just plain crazy. Now Yun Buxian wants to join the 1,000 household office as a regular officer. Swearing oaths, but no one will vouch for him. At most, he'll have to spend big money to buy a position at the garrison. If he ends up in some remote spot, he'll be freezing all his life. Not nearly as good as a year at Daesayan Temple. Pei Yuan listened and got the gist of it. So Yun Weilin not seeing me is him venting his frustration. Chang Lei wanted to join in. He laughed and shook his head. No way, he just doesn't dare face the boss. He's afraid he'll be shuffled off right away. So he's relying on his seniority to stall it out. He wants to check what the higher-ups think first. Pei Yuan heard all this and got even more intrigued by this Xinxia 1,000 household office. This special department seems to be loaded with perks. Yun Weilin is just a flag captain. Yet he could buy his kid Yun Buxian a deputy position. Chang Zhihu bought his son a city 100 household spot. Because someone advised him to only go that high. Not because he couldn't afford a higher title. Without noticing, Pei Yuan started feeling nervous about seeing Han Qianhu soon. Almost like a job interview. If he does well on this task, maybe Han Qianhu will hire him directly. Pei Yuan now has so much debt, he doesn't care anymore. His credit is on the verge of collapsing. He's not afraid to screw over another one now. So he told Chang Lei, "Let me go see the Qianhu first. If he agrees, you can work at my side for now. If a good opportunity comes up later, I won't hold you back, brother." Chang Leixiang wanted to listen. He was thrilled. He quickly said, "If the sir could help me out, I'd be totally at your service. I'd work hard for you." Chen Tutai, who was nearby, noticed Pei Yuan was talking more confidently now. He started feeling hopeful too. Chang Leixiang rushed to the counter to settle the bill, then hurried back to lead Pei Yuan to the carriage. All three, each with their own thoughts, headed for the Northern Patrol Office. When they arrived at the patrol office, Sun Bo, a commander of the Jinhui, was already waiting there. Sun Bo's eyes were sharp like knives. He glanced over Chen Tutai and Chang Weixiang. Both knew he was a deputy commander in the Jinhui, and Zhang Rong's trusted aide. They lowered their heads, barely daring to breathe. Sun Bo then signaled Pei Yuan to follow him into the patrol office. As soon as they entered, Sun Bo calmly said, "Let's see the boss first." Sun Bo's boss was obviously Zhang Rong. Pei Yuan knew what was going on, and wasn't surprised. Plus, they'd paid him. When they reached a side yard, they saw Zhang Rong bare-chested practicing boxing inside. His muscles were thick and firm. He had a solid foundation. Just from this scene, no one would ever imagine. He was a eunuch's relative who rose by favor. After Sun Bo went in, he quietly said, "Sir. He's here." Pei Yuan hurried to salute. Zhang Rong nodded, "Dr. Liu." A private guard handed him a towel to wipe sweat. Zhang Rong glanced at Pei Yuan. He said calmly, "Get up and answer." Pei Yuan rose. But Zhang Rong didn't ask anything. He just wiped sweat on his own, while doing cool-down exercises. Pei Yuan was confused. Sun Bo spoke up, "Pei Captain. You're smart. Got anything to say?" Pei Yuan realized Zhang Rong was being extra cautious, afraid of anything that might hint at spying on royal secrets. Thinking of this, Pei Yuan became wary. Spying on the emperor's secrets is forbidden. If I say something reckless, that's no good either. If I slip up later, I'd hand them leverage. After all, Zhang Rong hadn't asked any questions. But Sun Bo had made it clear. Trying to outsmart the Jinui chief now would be suicide. Pei Yuan could only say, yesterday, I went to Jihua Temple and met Daoist Cheng Jihu. Cheng Jihu said, someone wanted to learn about things from Emperor Ingzong's times. Zhang Rong was very concerned about this. He forgot about caution for a moment, and responded directly, asking, what did that person want to know about the Ingzong era? Pei Yuan replied, someone wanted to know, after Emperor Ingzong rebuilt Jihua Temple, did he ever visit, or leave any message or words? Zhang Rong frowned and started thinking. Sun Bo helped out, asked, anything else? Pei Yuan replied honestly, that's all. If Sun Bo had paid more, Pei Yuan might have shared his own insights, give a bit extra. But for 8 taels of silver, this was as far as he'd go. Seeing Zhang Rong still thinking, without showing much reaction, Sun Bo warned, when you meet Captain Han later, don't talk too much. Don't forget you're with the Northern Patrol Office. Pei Yuan really wanted to ask, now you remember I'm a patrol guy, huh? But what he actually said was polite and humble. I understand, sir. Leaving Zhang Rong's side yard, Sun Bo was still leading the way, bringing Pei Yuan to see Han Captain. This time, beside Han Captain, Pei Yuan saw an unfamiliar commander. He still didn't dare stare too much. He handed over the white porcelain cup, and reported, I've got everything ready. I can serve the captain anytime. Not sure if Han Captain understood what Pei Yuan really meant. Playing with the porcelain cup in his hand, half smiling, asked, got all the info you need? Pei Yuan was shocked. First he wondered if Han Captain sent someone to check after, then suspected maybe Chen Tu Tai, that bastard, sold him out. He resigned himself. He answered carefully, not daring to lie. He wiped sweat, I'm just newly promoted. I don't know all the details. Didn't want to mess up for the captain. So I wanted to prep more. Just in case. Han Captain really wanted to ask, the last time you messed with the Eastern Bureau, was that your handiwork too? But once some things get spelled out, they're pointless. If he said that, he'd get nothing useful, and it'd only get worse. Based on Han Captain's experience, if you let people be a bit creative, and have them show initiative, you end up with a lively crew. So Han Captain let it go, smiled warmly and asked, so are you ready? Pei Yuan was moved, thinking this was a chance he could work with. He thickened his skin and said, I've prepped 2 helpers. One's good at interrogations, the other's got street smarts. Might be useful. Han Captain kept a poker face, gave Pei Yuan a deep look. This guy turned his job into mine. Han Captain's slender fingers tapped the table for a bit, said, Chen Tu Tai is your guy anyway. If he wants to join the case, I'll tell the patrol office. Chang Leixiong already has a good background. He's one of us. Put him directly in the captain's office. Give him a flag. Let him train with you. After listening, Pei Yuan felt a little unbalanced. He and Chen Tu Tai were just temporary transfers. When it's over, they'd be sent back to sit in cold benches. But Chang Leixiong, that bastard got promoted just from helping on one case, and landed a spot in the Jinxia captain's office. Even if it's just a trainee job now. But look at Cheng Jihu, who also stepped back as a small flag bearer. He's living easy. Compared to that, Pei Yuan, who led the case, got less benefit than Chang Leixiong. That guy? Damn, I should charge him more. Han Captain carefully sized up Pei Yuan again, and said slowly, I've got other business this time. I'm not going to South Zhili with you. You and Captain Yuan will go together. While speaking, his smooth chin lifted a bit. The unfamiliar captain in the back stepped forward with an awkward smile. Han Captain briefly introduced, Yuan Lang. Captain Yuan just glanced at Pei Yuan. Pei Yuan thought about it, and ignored him. Though this Jinxia captain's office commander has real authority, but he wasn't polite, so Pei Yuan didn't bother. Not because he's proud, but it's clear, they'll be working together for a while. Pei Yuan's basically a solo commander. The same rank as Yuan is his only leverage. Under these circumstances, Pei Yuan lowered himself. That would be way too dumb. Yuan Long's show-off was wasted on thin air. He looked pretty embarrassed. He's never had a strong impression of Pei Yuan. At first, he thought this guy was just useless. Han Qianhu has a sharp eye for talent. But after finding out more, felt he was a troublemaker. And now, don't even mention how much of a buzzkill it is. Han Qianhu noticed all this. He chuckled softly. He turned to Yuan Lang and asked, "How's your prep going?" Yuan Lang replied quietly, "I checked. There's a captain named Zhao Jiuming who just finished his job. He has 8 skilled men on his team. They can head south with me." Han Qianhu responded with a nod. He continued, "The person behind Mei Qingyang is most likely the witch. That one's seriously freaky. Take a few monks with cultivation to come along." Yuan Lang asked, confused. "Those monks will slow us down on the road. Wouldn't it be better to arrange people after I get back to Nanzili? We've got plenty of capable folks over there." But Han Qianhu stayed silent. After a while, Yuan Lang saw Han Qianhu was still quietly thinking. He was just about to drop his plan. When Han Qianhu calmly said, "We still need to send people from the capital. These years, the emperor really values the Buddhist sects. Not just the palace ladies and eunuchs. Even bunches of civil officials and nobles follow suit. What kind of job are we actually doing? Technically, we make charcoal at temples and Taoist monasteries. Chasing after cults. Out in the open, just delivering instructions to temples. Supervising the monastic rules and handling taxes. The Buddhist sects are getting more powerful. And they've tied in with a lot of big shots. So why would they like us? All these Xinji Taoists pressing down on them. If we don't take control while we still can, once they get used to it, we won't be able to make them do anything." Yuan Lang heard this, and instantly understood Han Qianhu's plan. He immediately replied, "Understood, sir. From now on, whenever something happens in the south, I'll have the northern temples send people. And if something happens up north, I'll have southern temples send people." Pei Yuan stood nearby, listening carefully. Now it was clear to him why Cheng Jihu acts so high and mighty. He got the picture. Even though the Buddhist sects are blowing up fast in the Ming dynasty, the basic management system hasn't loosened up at all. In other words, all those behaviors the emperor turns a blind eye to only get tacit approval from society. But there hasn't been actual institutional change. If an emperor someday decides to crack down, all this glory will burst like a bubble. Honestly, looking at history, Buddhist sects are now rushing to their peak. In a few more years, a new Taoist master will show up, who'll outshine even the Deqing Dharma king. The full title is Supreme Taishang Dao Luo Tian Immortal. Ziji Supreme Holy Wisdom Revealed Spirit. Unified Prime Jade Void Master of Five Thunders Grand True Man. Xuandu Realm Eternal Emperor. And that's still not all. The Ming Emperor Zhu Hozong. As of now. So just how strict is the Buddhist management system? First, let's talk about restrictions on the temples themselves. Restrictions on the temples themselves were explained clearly in the earlier chapter. Every emperor's edict was written out plainly. Legally speaking, right now it's booming. All those temples popping up everywhere and land acquisitions are technically illegal constructions. The Ming government could easily take them all back. Now for the rules on temple managers. Zhi Yuanzhang said that if any temple master position is vacant, only monks or Taoist candidates with discipline and proficiency in classics may be sent for exam by the Record Office and Taoist Office, only after the Ministry of Rites reports approval. What does that mean? It means, if you want to become abbot, you must go through the Record Office and Taoist Office, take an official civil service exam. By the Chenghua era, they tightened these requirements further. Anyone with funds, land, or is applying for a vacant position must provide a local guarantee and monk, send it for official review, then pass it along for approval. No fake money or corrupt treasures allowed. Anyone ever involved in such matters, even if there's a female partner, must be investigated. What this means is, to be abbot, besides passing the civil service exam, you also need to provide a clean criminal record. And the appointment process switched from registration to approval. If a criminal history is found, even those already in position must be reviewed again. So monks who fight in Jin Yong's novels, like Abbot Xuanzi or Kongwen, would never get a legit position, not even worth considering. Next, the restrictions for regular monks. The Ming split monks into Chan, lecture, and ritual categories. Each must stick to their own work. Chan means Zen monks. Lecture refers to other sect monks. These two types can only study Buddhism in temples. Ritual monks handle things like blessings for the living and ceremonies for the dead. To tell them apart, the colors of monk robes for these three types were strictly defined. The first two are Buddhism experts, mastering debate and teachings at high levels. The third is average in Buddhism, deals with secular affairs more, but is much wealthier. Yet the first two are actually mainstream in the hierarchy. So monks from Chan and lecture get upset and start pondering deeply. What's wrong with Ming Dynasty anyway? Must be a systemic issue. Damn, but there's no one to report to. So they just have to come up with a plan. According to Zhu Yuanzhang's strict rules, even these types of monks can't show up in secular places at will. He also said monks shouldn't go out begging for alms, wandering villages and towns. If anyone does, arrest them at the temple. Charge them for ruining ancestral tradition. And since they've gone monastic, they should just be honest monks. If you're greedy for money, or steal from women, everyone can disgrace you and demand money. If you can't pay, you're beaten to death with no consequences. In the 10th year of Yongle, Zhu Di repeated the ban from Hongwu: those who break discipline, violate morals, will be executed with no mercy. Then in the 7th year of Xuande, Hongwu's strict ban was reasserted: monks are forbidden to beg. Violators will be punished. 6th year of Zhengtong, the emperor again posted about monks and Taoists corrupting minds, not upholding the ancestral ways, mixing with secular society, trading, violating traditions. He ordered restrictions everywhere. Only those who strictly comply. So how can monks avoid contact with society, but not break imperial edicts? The answer is the true function Taoist. Under government rules, almost any temple business dealing with outsiders had to be handled by true function Taoists. Even official things like submitting temple tax must be handled by true function Taoists. If the ideal temple of Ming emperors is like a prison, then the true function Taoist is the warden. He's the one who catches monks breaking rules, can disgrace them, demand money, beat them to death with no consequences, and execute them without mercy. Under today's social atmosphere, monks breaking rules is extremely common. Ming emperors indulged them, but also kept tightening restrictions. So even though Buddhism is booming, with emperors, empresses, and officials supporting it, everyone follows suit. But the moment these true function Taoists snap, they can grab their embroidered dagger and hack from the main hall right up to the scripture library. Even if rivers of blood flow, it's all legal. So in Ming-era novels, Guanyin leaves Mount Spirit to find the scripture seeker. She must first check in with the Taoist at the mountain foot. It's not just that Ming writers were wild, it's that for Ming people, that was the natural order. But Han Qianhu wasn't exactly clueless. Monks in the temple want to make money, supervising Taoists want it too, so everyone's power pushes the same way. Han Qianhu doesn't even respond to Yuan Lang. Instead says, let South Zhili have some chaos. Otherwise, we all got to beg for scraps. As soon as he said it, Yuan Lang took a look at Pei Yuan. Pei Yuan started feeling uneasy. Han Qianhu really knows what he's doing. He feels like Han Qianhu is repeating the same thing as in Jihua Temple, when he convinced him to invest, all over again. Maybe that's just how he shows trust. If so, Pei Yuan wouldn't mind paying to keep the secret. Han Qianhu seems to notice Pei Yuan's fidgeting. He glances back and tells Yuan Lang, ignore him. He already guessed which two sides are involved. Yuan Lang glances at the old fox and asks Han Qianhu, where should our people come from? What's the matter? Han Qianhu answers without thinking, Yuan Temple. It's closer. Pei Yuan's heart skips. Yesterday he asked Chen Tutai about local temples. Chen mentioned Yuan Temple and Guanxi Buddhist Hall. Now it's clear, Han Qianhu really knows the local terrain. Zhang Rongping sending Pei Yuan to Jihua Temple didn't seem suspicious, but unusual things are always a sign. Han Qianhu can't be suspecting Pei Yuan of selling out their secret? If he is, he's right. And Han Qianhu quickly mentions Pei Yuan. He says to Yuan Lang, you're in charge this time. But Pei Baihu is the top scholarship winner. If he has any thoughts, you should listen. Pei Yuan suspects Han Qianhu is hinting at something. Then sees Han Qianhu looking at him, and says, Yuan Lang is the veteran here. His thinking is bound to be fixed. Pei Baihu is a talented young man, also the top scholarship winner this year. If Yuan Baihu messes up, you help him out. If you don't like how it goes, feel free to make your own call. Pei Yuan hears, top scholarship winner, again. He's already nervous. Now he's sure Han Qianhu is hinting at his secrets. Just can't tell how deep the hints go. Pei Yuan sweats on his back. Quickly says, I'm inexperienced. Would never dare to be so arrogant. Han Qianhu says nothing more to Pei Yuan. When Yuan Lang says goodbye, Pei Yuan leaves along. They exchange glances. Because of Han Qianhu's mysterious remarks, as they finish their paperwork and head out, they both feel awkward. Yet despite their rivalry, with their shared task ahead, they have to stick to business and chat a bit. Yuan Lang soon gathers his people, then meets Pei Yuan at south gate of the outer city. The paperwork is in duplicate. Yuan Lang carries the Nanjing Jinhui office document, Pei Yuan has the North Garrisons, and the Funan Zhili support document. Yuan Lang heads the whole thing. But technically both sides are independent. Pei Yuan has his own document. If things go south, he can walk away alone. This is exactly Han Qianhu's mysterious approach. If I'm useless, you can handle it yourself. Pei Yuan walks off hands in pockets, leaving North Garrison alone. Looks at the two subordinates coming up, and sighs. Yuan Lang, that bastard, probably can't stand me. Chang Leixiong was startled. He quickly asked, Are you talking about? Could it be that old officer Yuan from the Qianhu office? Pei Yuan glanced at him sideways. He didn't say anything. Then, he took out Chang Leixiong's appointment letter from his sleeve. This is for you. Chief Han agreed on my behalf to let you stay at the Qianhu office. You'll start with me as a junior flag bearer. Chang Leixiong took it and glanced over it. He was overjoyed. But he saw Pei Yuan still eyeing him with that indifferent look. Realizing what was up, he hurriedly said, If it weren't for you, sir, there would be no me today. I'm honored to serve under you, and I'll be totally loyal. Pei Yuan just felt a chill in his heart. This bastard. Chang Leixiong just landed the junior flag bearer post. And he already says he'll do anything. Sounds sketchy. Forget it, Pei Yuan said calmly. I'm not expecting much from you. Just don't team up with Officer Yuan to mess with me. And I'll be more than happy. Chang Leixiong picked up on the odd tone. He quickly patted his chest. I know how it works, sir. You promoted me, so the least I can do is be loyal. If I ever split my loyalties, no one here would respect me. Pei Yuan nodded, not showing much emotion. That did the trick. Pei Yuan kept Chen Tutai and Chang Leixiong, these two little sidekicks, close to him. All thanks to some info advantage and trickery. Chen Tutai had nowhere else to go, so he might just hold his nose and accept it. But Chang Leixiong, with some connections, if he found out he was just working with a temp, wannabe officer, he'd probably get cocky. If he lost this street-smart helper, his trip to southern Zhili would be a disaster. The biggest risk of being exposed is Officer Yuan, who knows the whole story. So no matter what happened in Chief Han's office just now, Pei Yuan had to stir up trouble with Yuan Lang. Even if it doesn't turn into a full feud, they'd at least get sick of seeing each other, stay out of each other's way. Next step is to make things clear in front of Chang Leixiong. So Chang Leixiong, out of caution, would avoid Yuan Lang. If those two steps didn't work, then Pei Yuan should stop dreaming and go ask Gu Deong. So, do you still want those 30,000 taels of silver or not? Luckily, things were going smoothly. Chen Tutai kept staring at the appointment letter in envy, silly and grinning at Chang Leixiong, eyes locked on Pei Yuan. But Pei Yuan kept quiet. Chen Leixiong always thought that Pei Yuan was Chief Han's newly recruited 6th officer. If those two letters exposing the temp arrangement got out, the story would fall apart. He'd have to come up with something fast. Better remind Chen Tutai later. Pei Yuan. After Chang Leixiong was done celebrating his promotion, he finally asked. About this case in southern Zhili, we'll have to deal with people from the underworld. Do you have any street experience? Tell me about it. Talking about underworld experience seemed to hit Chang Leixiong's pride. He immediately brightened up. Maybe you know, sir? My father used to be a big shot on the Huai River. Folks in the underworld all respected him. When I joined the Huashan sect, I became the senior brother right away. Everyone around my age called me young hero Chang. Pei Yuan thought for a second, then curiously interrupted. When you joined Huashan, weren't there others in your class? Chang Leixiong replied. Sure, he seemed to get Pei Yuan's point. Chang Leixiong added. But I brought a lion with me, so I got to be the senior brother. Pei Yuan nodded in understanding. He too, once made it into the top 5 as a backup pick. Skipped the rankings and got first place as an alternate. Chang Leixiong continued. Now all the northern tough guys are focused on the Buzhou uprising. Doubt anyone dumb enough will cause trouble. We can go down south along the Shandong Salt Canal, with troops stationed along the way, and lots of busy towns. Once we cross the river, it's Nanjing's embroidered guards territory. They're all our own people. The Qianhu offices along the route. Chief Han has connections everywhere. Pei Yuan did a mental check. Pretty much the same as the last Dongchang trip south. Except this time, it looks a lot more serious.